got Android.
Oh, so it's probably a feature of the Android then.
I like it because then nobody sees my background.
Well, I mean, I've had to set up all this just to make it look pretty in a nice little corner.
Nice.
And of course, that's new. So,
I got one of those like lights that's supposed to help make it look nice.
yeah, I got one there too. It's
Yeah,
behind the
that's,
camera.
that's pretty much all I got.
Yeah, I got that. I got a lot of lighting stuff actually. I got some big lighting um and green screen and all that stuff. I just for this setup here, once I get that room set up downstairs, um I'll be able to actually do it full because I want to have a table where I can have, multiple people sitting there.
That's
And
cool.
um so this is just temporary until I finish that up because I'm having to model one room and then I can move stuff from a bigger room into that into that little room,
Oh, cool.
and then I'll have this. It's a basic square room, but I can set it up better. There's more room to set up a table and lighting and cameras, and then like a. Eventually, it'd be nice to have someone that can actually come in and knows how to do the back end stuff that can control things for me, so I don't have to deal with it. But for now, I'll have to do it all myself.
Gotcha, gotcha. I like your mic. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it wasn't that. This came with the boom arm. That's actually what I wanted, and it came with the mic. I was like, okay, it's not the best mic in the world. I can't change certain things. Like I can't mess with the gain. That would have
Hmm,
been nice, but it's good enough for now.
it's pretty cool.
Needed that so I can move that sucker around, so
Yeah,
it doesn't
that's cool.
get in my way, and I can move it out of the way, and because I share this desk, so um, but that's it. And I've got on another screen over here. I'm using OBX, if you know what that is. Um,
No.
or OBS, not OBX, OBS. Uh, it's a program that allows you to do recording and streaming. You can stream and record and stuff like that, and it allows you to switch. So like I can switch between the two of us on the screen, and then I can switch it between just you or just me, depending on like if you're gonna be talking for a while, I just hit a button, switch it over.
Oh, that's cool.
So
That's cool you know how to do that stuff.
man, I had to teach myself how to do all this.
Yeah, yeah, I believe it. I pretty much just did like Zoom calls and hit record, and that was as far as I learned. That
Uh,
was that
I
was it.
think my ADD and wanting to be professional and look good and all that puts me it takes me longer to get to that point. Whereas yeah, I should just set up the camera, hit record, let's go. Yeah,
That's cool though.
but so this is it. And
Ooh.
you know as you see, I got the sign says, yeah, the will to act. Somebody just gave that to me recently, my girlfriend. But then I also have it on my forearm here.
Oh wow.
The whole purpose of, I mean, my name's Will, so of course it kind of goes well. But
Yeah. Okay.
the reason
Cool.
I even got it first on the tattoo, it was back, what, December of 2020, was because of going through all this crap, with parental alienation and trying to fight for my kids. Uh, Man, as I well know, it will drag
Yeah.
you through the goddamn ringer.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, it sucks. Trying to figure out what's the best spot for my thing to be, so I don't have to keep messing with it.
Well,
I'll eventually figure out a spot.
you're right on right there. So
Okay.
looks
Okay.
straight on.
I feel like it's a lot of ceiling, but
Oh no,
that's all. But it's not a big deal.
it's not, doesn't have to be perfect. Mine's not
Yeah, yeah.
perfect. So eventually I'll get it to that point. I probably should have the camera set a little bit different or whatever, but I'm just makeshift. And I even try to figure that out. I'm looking at and studying other shows. I'm like, how do they got that angle? How are they doing that? Where's their
Yeah,
cameras at?
yeah. Yeah,
Try
yeah.
to figure it out. um, but for me, I think doing the show and the name and everything specifically because of folks like us having to go through this, and it's
Yeah, it's a good
horrible.
name you have, Will to Act. That's a good name.
I felt like it worked. Not to mention if you ever watch Batman Begins, the movie with um was done by Chris Nolan, and so the main bad guy in the end is Liam Neeson, right? And but he's like semi good, semi bad, and he's training Bruce to become Batman in the and later on, and he's like goading him in a scene. They're fighting on the ice, and he says, he's like, your parents' death is your father's fault, and he's like, that that's not true. The man had a gun. He's like, that wouldn't have stopped you. He's like, well, I've had training. And he knocks him down on the ground. He's like, your training means nothing. And he kind of turns around in that sexy Liam Neeson voice. He says, the will to act. He's and so it's like that's what you had. That's that was the difference between him and his father. It's like he wasn't afraid to take the action where his father was. And in life, I feel like that's kind of who I am. And then having to do this, like I knew going into this situation that I was gonna end up having, that I was gonna go through this, that this was gonna happen. My kids were gonna be alienated somehow. I didn't know how bad exactly or what it would end up looking like, but I knew it was gonna happen because I'd seen this person's past, and so that was
Yeah,
one hell of a difficult decision. Yeah. So the will
it's
to act.
yep, yep. Dang.
But your situation is a little bit different. Your son
Yeah.
he's only 5 now, right?
Yeah, he just turned 5. Yep, in December.
So and you've been having to fight this battle for like almost the last 4 years.
Yeah, for it's over 4 years now. Yep.
So why don't you tell me? And we talked a lot prior, but
Yeah,
why don't you kind of start me off from the beginning? Because your story is a little unique and interesting,
yeah,
but it
yeah.
also showcases, even though it's not parental alienation, it still showcases the corruption in the courthouses
Oh,
and the
yeah,
law
yeah.
system. So
So where to begin? I had a kid and made a deal with the father that I would stay in the state of California for 1 year so that he could get a relationship with our child and they could get to know each other. Then after a year, I was going to move to Oregon, which is where I'm from, and raise our kid with my abundance of family friends that are here. And the my son turned 1 years old, and I was so busy getting all that birthday party together, and COVID's happening, so family attended virtually for like a little birthday celebration. The day after that, I was served papers that said that he had filed with family court, and so that's where all that started. And I just remember the very last paper said you cannot leave the state. And I was like, wow, all right, this has been planned for a while from this guy. Um, I held up my end of the promise or bargain or whatever you want to call it. And he knew the legal system and knew, a lot of things that I obviously didn't look into, and basically trapped us in the state of California. And that's where our whole starting with the family court system begun. Uh, so yeah, I guess like everybody else, I went in thinking like, all right, this is not a big deal. I'm a good person. I have no record, no tickets even under my name. This won't be that bad. Um, and I guess I should back up a little bit. Before he even filed with the courts, we were doing private like mediation with an individual, like literally paying an individual to discuss with us my move and how to keep him involved in the child's life, and if he should move with us, like what would work for him. And even though we were having those discussions with somebody before I moved, he went and filed behind my back to start the process with court. So it was just like a total stab in the back, like, wow, you just are going to do what you want to do. And there was no conversation with me about it. So, yeah, we're in family court. Kid's only 1 years old. He's now 5. We've been in the court process for now just over 4 years. So basically his entire life. Uh, I fled the home just about like a month after I was served. Basically, abuse started within the house. Yeah, there's a lot to go on with that. There was abuse prior to that, but it just really escalated once I got served. It was like, "Yep, I own you. Yep, you can't go anywhere." It was basically that whole kind of thing. Yeah,
So you're when you got served, where he got served, or I'm sorry, you got served with papers from him.
yeah,
It was already happening. You're
yeah.
is that now like what kind of describe to me what that was, because everybody's situation is a little different, but I completely understand because mine started off slowly, but yours kind of you weren't together that long before that happened, so
Yeah.
like mine took years of slowly building up to it.
So we only lived together for a year. I literally moved in when I was 2 weeks before my due date. So I lived with him just for a year. And in a year, it was very like slow, the stuff that was happening. The red flags, but I kind of just like would ignore it or make excuses for it or listen to his excuses for it. So COVID also hit, and that also made things confusing. And a lot of the excuses were, well, it's because of COVID. So, for example, if I wanted to go visit family, oh, you can't because there's COVID. So it was like the isolation. Can my family come visit me? Oh, you
Right.
can't because we gotta stay separated during these times. I remember my brother did still come to visit. He was like, basically, screw that. I'm coming to visit,
I like that.
you know? Yeah. And then there was other little things. He had a car, I had a car, but he would always say that his car wasn't running or working. So he needed my car keys and always had it in his care because he needed to use my car because he couldn't use his. I would just, okay, kind of listen to it. But then I never had a vehicle to go anywhere. And if I needed to go anywhere, I had to ask him for permission to go. But I could never be granted permission because of COVID. Oh, it's dangerous out there. I'm trying to protect you and the kid. You guys can't go out. So I just, kind of listened to this stuff and I wanted to believe that he was looking out for our safety. I didn't really realize what was happening to the full extent. Then it also came into I couldn't go out to even just get groceries. He had to do that because he needed to keep us safe. Um, we couldn't even step outside of the house there for a while because he told us that COVID was in the air. And if we just stepped outside and breathed the air, we were going to catch it and get sick. So we stayed confined in our home. I mean, these were like the parameters I lived in. And I just thought, oh, he's looking out for us. And I wanted to believe that. Um,
That's
so yeah,
crazy.
it
So
was confusing.
so he started off as controlling your space and limiting who you or could even be around.
Yes.
Was there any like psychological stuff where you know to and like in a degradation maybe, or you needed him and kind of thing, anything like that, or was it
So yeah,
more?
so there was like other levels of things that occurred. And once again, it's like I look back at it now and I'm like, oh my god, I was so stupid. I would listen to like the radio, uh, and he got to where he was upset about that. Don't listen to the radio. Now I understand now why. He didn't want us to listen to it because then we could find out information about what was happening in the world.
Seriously didn't want you listening to the radio.
Yes, not listen to the radio. Don't watch TV. Uh, and that he would say it was bad for our child to have that much screen time, or he would want me to just spend time one-on-one with the kid, don't be getting all that other electronics into his life already at a young age. And I was just like, okay, but now I get it. It's because he didn't want us hearing what was happening in the world. So he became like our messenger and would tell us like, yeah, the air is bad, there's no food in the stores. Like he was
Yo,
constantly putting that fear in me, and I believed it because I wasn't really like watching anything happening in the world. It was stupid on my part.
how how uh how old are you now? if you don't mind me asking?
I'm, yeah, I'm 36.
Okay, so you're, already in your early 30s when
Yeah.
he started playing these games on you. God,
Yeah, yeah. I feel pretty stupid for it. It's just my whole life was being around good people and people who actually did want the best for you and was truthful. And this was like my first time being around somebody who was like this.
some see, I still like using the term narcissist, but you
Yeah,
go online, a lot of people try to talk shit. Well, what really is a narcissist, and where do you get your degree from to be able to say what this? I'm like, life
yeah.
experience. People who are unhealthy don't do stuff like this.
Hmm.
You know,
Hmm.
like that manipulation that you went through.
Yeah,
That's not normal behavior. That's someone that's got some kind of psychological mental health
yeah,
issue. Maybe
yeah,
they're not quote unquote a narcissist, but I mean they're pretty darn close.
yeah. I mean,
Control.
there's like other stuff that happened too, and I just have to add that when I fled the home and I lived in a DV shelter with with our son, they got me counseling, and during all that time, I kind of was like, as I want to call, like, in denial about the abuse. They helped me to unravel, these things aren't normal. It's like I literally was at the point where I just made excuses for everything that he did. He was
Right.
looking out for us. He was, and they helped me to realize, no, this was not okay. And in doing that, I started to realize other things that I was like, oh my God, how stupid could I be? For example, I was the sole provider for our child. He would not even hold our child for the first 2 months of his life because he said he was sick and he didn't want to get the child sick. This is your
What?
baby. It literally was just born, and
Yes.
you don't even want to hold him. It was really kind of weird. It's like looking back at it, like, yeah, it's really odd.
That is a little
Um,
odd.
I, yeah, yeah. We kind of had to push him to even just want to hold his own kid, which is not normal. Um, he did a lot of like pressuring me for being in a relationship with him. I didn't really have, the love for him. We were together for the sake of our child, and we lived like roommates. He lived in one room, I lived in another. And this really upset him. And I would be pressured into, we need to have sex talks. And that's really uncomfortable subject to talk about.
Sure.
Uh, yeah. It's been this many days since you've given me sex. It's like a subject that's not really fun to announce to people. Um,
I don't blame you.
yeah,
It's embarrassing and to go
yeah,
through.
yeah. And then there, being the only one that's taking care of our child, I was really tired. You have to feed this kid every 2 hours. And I remember lack of sleep that I was getting, this and that. And I remember telling him one time, like, I'm really tired. And he's like, let me get you some tea. Now, this is probably one of the scariest things that happened. So he gave me some tea. I drank this tea, and I remember right away just falling asleep. I woke up in
Yo.
my bed having no idea how I'd gotten there. And I had no clothes on. So
Yo.
things like that happened in this home that I learned I don't want any more tea.
Yo, that's an immediate red flag, right? More than a red
Yeah,
flag. That's okay, I'm out kind of thing.
yeah,
That
yeah.
that happened to
But I,
me one time,
yeah, yeah.
so I can completely relate. And it was right before my separation. Uh, Man, I'm gonna tell you what, this is crazy. You gotta hear this. So like, I had a Christmas party to go to for the company that I was working for, and that evening, she and I had gotten into a really bad argument, and it, it just kind of thrown me for a whirl, and I was having a really bad anxiety attack and all this stuff, and uh, come to find out, something she gave me this small pill that I thought So she told me it was something I can't remember what now, just something to help with the anxiety. And I knew she had some stuff because she had been prescribed this stuff before, so it wasn't like I was like, well, where would you have gotten that? Like I knew she would have had this, so I kind of believed it. And then, how an hour and a half, 2 hours later, I was at the Christmas party. We were at the Christmas party, and I had maybe a few glasses of white wine, like the small glasses. And after about 9:15, I couldn't remember anything, and it was like that. I woke up in my bed, and I was like, how the hell did I get here? And I have a few, like two or three short blip memories in between those times, you know? And I'm like, yo, you drugged me. Like, wow. That was after 12 years of marriage. And
Dang.
and that was so it was like what a little over a month after that the real separation happened, like because I had been assaulted for the fifth time.
Oh, wow.
So you can imagine you're for a short period of time. I was 12 years and to get something
Yeah.
like that, I'm talk about like, oh my god, like having to unpack and peel back the layers of trauma after all that
Yeah.
amount of time.
Definitely. That's a long time to be with somebody. So that person you feel you trust, you lived with them for that long. It's hard to believe these things when
Exactly.
it's happening.
Ex-
Yeah.
exactly, it threw me for a loop. I mean, that was in 20 at the end of 2019, so now we're just in the beginning of 25. So I'm still coming across things that every now and then I realize, wow, something else that I just
Yep.
was unaware of and that was going on and happening to me.
Yep. Yep. Same here. Oh,
So talk about
sometimes a
feeling
memory.
stupid.
Yeah, right. Yeah. It sucks because I remember, growing up and just my mother watched Lifetime. I don't know if you've ever seen that show. It's a channel for women.
Of
There's
course
all
I know
these
Lifetime.
crazy series. Okay. Growing up watching that, and I go, oh my God, how did I become a Lifetime episode? Like, there's no way.
No
I
way.
watched this stuff growing up. That can't be me.
It is.
Yeah.
It is almost like because Lifetime is kind of known for like over the top kind of drama stuff. But my God, this stuff is
It is.
definitely that ridiculous drama, soap opera kind of drama. Yeah,
Yeah.
and then of course you add in the court stuff. So
Yes.
that's a
That
that's a
only
that's a
makes
big
it
one right
worse.
there. I know
Mhm.
you've been dealing with some stuff on the court side. This is absolutely ridiculous. And I'm hoping you get. I feel confident you're going to get some justice in the near future. But you know, the fact that the judges violated laws and procedures,
Mhm.
um, which I think you should get into because, like, especially the part about them putting that restraining order on you for for speaking out, which we're doing here right now.
Yeah, what
So
do you know?
that I
Yes,
want to get into that one because that's kind of like, I mean, touching on the First Amendment right there, which is such a huge
yes.
thing.
And I guess we should explain what the First Amendment is for those who may be
Man,
listening.
uh, we shouldn't have to, but I guess.
Yeah, we should have to. I remember actually saying at this restraining order hearing, I have a First Amendment right. And I even when I got to cross-examine my ex, I said, "Do you know what the First Amendment is?" And,
Yes.
it's like I was trying to make it very clear, like this is going against my First Amendment. But I'll never forget the judge's words. Yes, you have a First Amendment right, but you also need to know that your actions have consequences. Whoa. What? What?
Like, what are you talking about?
Yes.
That's the whole point of the First Amendment was to protect me from you not liking what I say.
Yes.
Hello.
Yeah.
Oh man, I truly hope that judge pays for that because
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
literally you're violating the fundamental laws of this country that was laid down hundreds of years ago to protect us specifically from this stuff. And actually, on my channel, I have a short thing where I was reading off this thing I came across online where it was like, I can't remember exactly. I think it's like the Federal Department of Justice or something like that sent out this letter to all these courthouses and whatnot throughout the country. Basic breaking it down in a nutshell, it had to do with the fact that they were getting like a lot of reports of civil rights violations by these organizations, courthouses, um, and they said, basically, you need to watch out what you're doing, blah blah blah, kind of thing. They're literally saying it right there. We know that you're violating civil rights. Stop. Be careful. And yet, it's still happening to this day.
Yeah. Yeah, it's unfortunate. And it's really because there's no consequences for their actions. Well, I'm going to use that word again, that phrase against him. Um,
You
Nothing's
got it.
really happening to them. You know, they're just continuing to destroy families, and a bunch of people are being affected by this and being stripped away from their parental rights. It's really unfortunate how many good parents are out there being unable to even have a relationship with their children because of what family court is doing. It's really sad.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I had the guardian ad litem from my kids tell me I was sitting there talking to him one day, giving him my side and explaining things, um, and he's like, you know what the crazy thing is? He's like, you have a constitutionally protected right to raise your child however you see fit, within, of course, you're not harming the child. But other than that, and it's like they know it, but it was like, oh well, you're gonna come here and it's not gonna matter.
Yeah,
I'm like, wait a
yeah.
minute, how can y'all say that? And then that makes me feel like, okay, well, y'all are complicit then in this crime, because and when I was looking it up, um, about learning to understand attorneys and whatnot, their first duty is to the court and then to their client. So if protecting you and doing the best thing for you isn't good for the court, screw you. We're not going to tell you that, but we're going to make you keep paying, and in the end, you're going to get the shaft. And I thought, how can because these are officers of the court. Same thing like when you go into you have the sheriffs there, which they call them the bailiff, and the sheriff is supposed to be there. They take an oath too to uphold the Constitution. They're supposed to protect the people from these things happening. Yet, like there was this one guy. He was specifically talking about child support and such. In on his channel, he's got a really good channel. I have to find it and send his stuff to you. But he, in one of his videos, he was talking about how I got this bailiff right near me. I'm a former sheriff, and he's like, I looked up to the guy and I said to him, how can you sit here day after day and watch the judge commit these crimes, no breaking the law, and not do anything about it? Like that's your job. You're supposed to be like, no, 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 judge, that's against the law. I know better, and stop the judge. Or if they continue to do it, put them in jail. You know, but they don't because they're all buddy buddy system. They're gonna
Mm-hmm.
take care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about Washington or Oregon where you're at. Here in Virginia, these administrative judges are appointed, so
Yeah.
they have zero accountability except to the bar and a judiciary committee, which doesn't really do anything to look at. They even say we're not going to look at any of the uh, cases to see if it was done right or wrong. It's only for misconduct. And so you can't go and ask the same your the friends of the person committing the crime to help you out because they're gonna be like, that's our friend. We're not gonna if we make bring them down, we're bringing ourselves down.
Mm-hmm.
What?
Yep. Yep. That's why if you also like contact the bar or the judicial contact, all those people, they just send you letters back saying there's not enough evidence for them to investigate.
Oh,
That's why. they're not actually going to help. I mean, I went down that rabbit hole and tried all those different methods just to be like, look at what they're doing. Somebody needs to interfere and help. And they just don't. They're all in it together and they're all in it to help each other.
Exactly. I did you have like an evaluator or anything, a custody evaluator do any kind of work?
Yeah, so I had a child custody evaluator. Did you have somebody like that?
No, I never did. But I've heard a lot about it, and others who've had them, and it's really bad. Like
It's
they're
super
trying to get
bad.
rid of them altogether. These forensic
Good.
evaluators, because they have found that there's significant bias from these
Yes.
people. Um, and
Sometimes
somebody.
sometimes they're even bought out. I know they don't want to admit that,
Of
but one of the
course.
parents can just go and wave some money in front of them, and then they'll, okay, I'll write a report bad about
Oh,
the
I'm
other parent.
sure. Oh, I'm sure.
You
And there's no way that you can easily prove that.
Yeah, yeah, and there's kickbacks to the judges if they refer that child custody evaluator. That's why they have their list of the individuals that they want you to use,
Right.
not ones that you bring forward saying, "Hey, I'd like to use this person. They're reputable. I've heard a lot of good things. There's a lot of good reviews about them." They're like, "Nope, you're going to use somebody from our list." And then if you look at the reviews for the people on their list, there's a lot of people complaining. They wrote a false report about me. They were biased. They were this,
Right.
that. And yep, those are your options. And yeah.
So you had so you had these things happening to you. What led you to wanting to speak out at first? Like, I know something happened.
Okay. So, I actually went from full custody of my son to 50-50 with father, which was okay. That lasted a whopping 3 months. And then dad came with a false allegation, saying that I was a flight risk and a pedophile, by the way. I was a teacher for a living, so I was also a pedophile. And we went to court over that. And the judge ruled in favor of him that I was a flight risk. Nothing about the pedophile thing that just completely got swept under the rug, I guess. No evidence. I'm not only a flight risk, but a flight risk to flee to Mexico to be with my father, who doesn't even live in Mexico. Uh, my kid was completely taken from me. My parental rights were stripped. Um, I actually was also given a bench warrant out for, I think it was 25,000. Um, and then I was told I had to appear in court the next day or the next time in person because I was attending virtually that day. That doesn't count as appearing in court, which doesn't make any sense. Um,
That
so it
makes no
was like
sense.
bam, 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 all these horrible things happen in one day, and I was like, what just happened? And so I was like, I gotta understand this. I gotta come to the bottom of this. So I started my own channel. And I basically was like, this is what happened. They kidnapped my kid, and people started to contact me. This has happened to me. This has happened to me. And it was like my way of understanding what is happening with family courts. And I was basically unraveling the mystery, and it helped me to understand it entirely. Like, all right, I didn't do anything wrong.
No.
They're doing they're the corrupted ones. They're doing something wrong. And it's happening all over, not even just the US, all over the world. So yeah.
So you started the channel and you started speaking, telling your story, and
Yeah.
I think you even said you kind of got a little passionate about it and named some names,
Yeah.
which I don't blame you, because I feel like that should happen. We should be able to speak out and say, okay,
Yeah.
that's the whole point of the First Amendment, is to be able to say these things,
Yeah.
because it's not like you were creating false stories or something. You were literally telling your own story about what was actually happening. So they
Yeah.
can't even come back to you and say something like, I'm trying to think of the right word, where you talk bad about somebody that's false, knowingly false. They can,
Defamation.
yeah, thank you. So they can't even hit you with defamation, because it's like, this is fact. This has been
Yeah.
happening.
This is
you
this
know.
is literally what
So
happened. Yeah.
so then you got tell me how the process, like when you got served with this protective order.
So, I also, in addition to speaking out on my channel, also formed a protest and went and protested in front of my courthouse with
Woo!
yeah, and I was
You're
angry, you
badass,
know.
girl.
You guys are not letting me talk or see my son. Like, this is ridiculous. So we even made some signs and it had like my judge's picture on it. And I said, she's a kidnapper because she took my kid, you know? And we protested in front of it. And this is where it went down. My ex showed up to the courthouse and we're all like we were streaming this protest live on
Nice.
one of the females channels, and I mean it got like 50,000 views. I could
Whoa.
not believe we had so many people watching and encouraging us, and he shows up, so my guess is he probably heard about it from somebody or he was watching it himself. He
Sure.
shows up to file some papers. Just wow, to file
What a
some papers.
moron.
Out of all the days to file
Oh
papers,
my
it's an
god.
excuse. In fact, the first time he walked to the courthouse to walk past us, he had no papers in his hand to file. And he comes out in all the females are there and they're protesting, and he started shouting at them like
What? So so
you're
so there's
like
cameras
slander.
filming this
There's
incident.
filming this where he's slandering us, yelling at us. And I don't know, I don't know where my mind was at the time, but it took me a good minute before I realized who he was. I just, a lot of people were coming in and out of that courthouse and nobody was slandering us. In fact, some people came out and were high fiving us. Some talked into the
Yes.
camera that day and were like, yep, they're doing the same thing to me and at this same courthouse. Some people came and said their opinions about the same judge, that they had the same judge as me, and they spoke in for the camera. But this was the first individual that came, and it happened to be my ex, and he was like slandering us. And I don't know, it took me a minute to realize who this person was. He walked past slandering us, went into the courthouse, and then one of the females was like, "Who is that?" And I was like, "That's my son's father." It took that long.
How many
Then
people did you guys how many were there with you in the
we
protest?
didn't have that many. I wish we had more. We spread the word like no other on my channel and other girls' channels. We got maybe 5 people, and then we would have moments where people would come out of the courthouse and kind of hang out with us for a little bit, and then they're like, "Well, I gotta go to work now. Good luck, you guys."
Heck yeah.
We wish we would have had more people, but we still made an impact. People definitely knew we were there, and we got it on live, and it got a lot of viewers. And but the best part of all, he goes into the courthouse. None of us did anything. He comes back out with officers, like security from inside the courthouse on each side of him. So he already is like acting like the victim,
Yeah.
and
Oh
at
well,
this point,
poor me,
yes,
I
yes,
decided to
yes,
come here knowing this was going on.
yes, this
What a
is
goomba.
ridiculous. He came in efforts of stirring the pot.
Yeah.
So he comes out, he's got the officers. I just got done telling the girls that are there, like, oh, that was my son's father. And they're upset now because now they know who he is. He's the man that's taking her kid. That's what's happening in their eyes. So he comes out with the officers to escort him to his car because he forgot his papers to file. So they escort him to his car. A female chased after him, and she's yelling, "How dare you? How do you sleep at night? You took her kid." She's yelling at him.
Oh man.
I I stayed pretty good distance, but I yelled too, like, "Where's my son? You took custody of him. Where is he? He's literally not even in sight. I hadn't seen my son. At that point, I'm upset. What is going on here?"
Yeah, completely.
The officers escort him back into the courthouse with his papers to file, and that's it. I think like 2 or 3 days later, I'm served with papers for a restraining order.
So, I'm trying to figure this out. who was listed as the person giving the restraining order? Like who filed for it? Was it him or was it
Yeah.
the what was listed as the reason?
So the reasoning was that I was coercing online viewers to attack him. And I have to add, our son was put in this restraining order too. Where am I doing anything with any involvement to hurt our kid? There was none at all.
Yeah. So that literally was an attack against you, you know, and they were
Yeah.
fine with it because you were doing what you were doing. You were,
Yes.
protesting, and so they're like, "Oh well, we're gonna go after, let him have his way and go after her,"
Yeah.
you know, and
Yes.
but under the guise of, "Oh well, he needs a protective order," and so you're, um, how long, how long ago was that?
So that was issued in June of 2024, and the restraining order was granted for 5 years maximum that you could be
They gave it for
granted.
5 years with no evidence.
No, no, their evidence was the fact that I was there protesting. They had, the video footage of that and the video contents of my YouTube channel. But that's literally just going against my First Amendment rights.
Exactly, that's not
And
evidence.
that's nothing to say that I'm trying to hurt him. And in that, I kept trying to explain to the judge, do you not understand? He showed up at that protest trying to antagonate us. Like that's literally the whole point.
Yeah,
Well, he should be able to go there and file. We didn't prevent him from filing. In
yeah.
fact, when he first walked in, he had no papers in his hand.
Well,
But
yeah.
and he literally said at the hearing, and it's funny too because he shows footage of driving there and he's recording himself driving there and recording himself getting out. And I said, "Why were you recording yourself?" Because you knew we were there. You knew you were coming
Yeah.
with that agenda. And he said he felt that he was in fight or flight risk. And I said, "So you stayed on the premises to fight.
Yeah.
Those are your own words." But the judge just ruled in his favor.
He could have, yeah, he oh, well, he has a right to come and file paperwork. Sure. But knowing that's going on, like if it was me, I'd be like, "Yo, I'm out of here. Like I'll come
Yeah,
tomorrow, you know."
me too.
Cuz this isn't
Me
going to go
too.
on every single day, you know. I'll
Exactly.
just come tomorrow. I'm not going to start into that. No way.
Yeah. And then he said that my channel caused people to show up at his house and to, I don't know, threaten him or hurt him or something like that.
Excuse me.
So when I cross examined him, I said, "Did you get some security cameras for your house for your protection?" He says, "Yes." Where is the evidence then? Where is the videos to show these people showing up at your place? I mean, it's insane. He also said that at
so
our
you
supervised visits. Yeah,
so
go
he
ahead.
so he also said that these people are showing up at his home
Yes,
with no evidence.
no evidence.
Wow.
And then the best part of all, he accused several of my friends of having attacked him. Literally, he's driving in a car, they're driving a car. Everybody's like professional speed racers in this declaration. Um He's driving in a car from the supervised visit, literally just picking up our kid from my visit with our child. And my friends show up out of nowhere and they swerve their car into his car to try to hit his car, but they miss because he's a good driver and nobody gets injured. My friends were all there to testify. This did not happen. They have never even came to the supervised visitation facility. They don't know where it's at. And yet they still grant him this restraining order. There were like four witnesses on my behalf and just him, his word.
My God.
How do you do that?
What kind of a judge does like what kind of an imbecile is sitting on the bench like that? Yo, that man or woman
Yes.
needs to go. Like what a fool.
It's insane.
A
And
teenager could figure that out without any problem.
that
Like there's
is
something
enough
fishy
to,
here.
yeah, and that's enough to grant that our kid should be applied in the restraining order against me. Okay, all of those allegations, none of them were me swerving, race car
Sure.
driving and trying to hit him. They're my friends. But My friends were even there to testify. They have no idea what he's talking about. And how come there's no nobody damaged to the car? How come everybody's such a great driver? Yet he was able to swerve away from them every single time. I mean, it's not possible. And why do my friends wait until my kid is with him to do this? Why wouldn't they do it while I was having my 2 to 4 hour supervised visit with my kid so they knew my kid was safe with me? Why wouldn't they go after him then? It's just all these little things don't add up, and it's just a ridiculous story, and there the courts are buying into it.
For sure. I completely, in one way, I'm like, wow, I'm like just amazed to hear, you know, that they would grant that. But then on the other side, I mean, like now that I've seen some of the things I've seen, I'm like, no, okay, it's not so surprising. In my case, so I had one. I was trying to file a restraining order because my ex's new boyfriend, he started calling my phone from these like a blocked number, and the first time I didn't answer. I think I can't remember. I either answered or didn't answer, but he started leaving voicemail. So he actually left a voicemail on there, and I mean, there's only one person in my life that has a problem with me, male, that would do something that stupid, and that would be him. Nobody else in my life would do anything like that. That was because they were trying to make that accusation that, oh, you probably have somebody else in your life that's got a problem. I'm like, no, my circle is so freaking tiny. Like I would know if I had any problems with anybody else, but there's nobody else that's gonna call me, make threats, telling me to, I warned you to stay the fuck away, and you better watch your back, and um, things like that, little things like that. And there was certain
No,
stuff
yeah,
that certain stuff that he said that was like, that would only be this person that's got a, is trying to, I don't want to say support, but is because he's kind of
I
a
should say
simp,
as a motive.
yeah, he's being pushed by his new girlfriend to do these things because I know this
Yeah.
is how her, her mo. This is what she'll do, um, and and then there was something else that he said. I can't remember it off the top of my head, but that kind of like just gave it away specifically. Like, dude, this is clearly gonna be you. But um, when I got to the court, of course, I was having to pro se and uh, cross examine him and my ex wife, you know, because he brought her along to testify on his behalf, which even the judge was like, yeah, of course her opinion would be biased because she wants to go home and not have any problems with her boyfriend, you know. But the judge ended up not granting me the
Hmm.
extension because he called from a blocked number, so I couldn't prove and point it that it was specifically him. But I'm like,
Hmm.
they literally, like, I had the recording. The judge listened to the recording and had to hear this man speaking right in front of
Yeah.
him. So I'm like, how do you not hear
Yeah.
that? You know?
Yeah.
And and he knew. So like this guy works for a nuclear company here in the area that has contracts with the military, and so you have to have a background check to have clearance to be even work there. And
Hmm.
in this time, which is this was hilarious, his high priced attorney that he had brought up the fact that he had to turn in his guns during this time because he had a concealed carry and all this stuff. So he had to turn that in, and he had to tell his job, well, I've got a potential protective order out on me, because that can affect your job immediately because they're not going to keep you if you've got that kind of criminal history. Um, and so, oh, we're worried, because he's just trying to come out and try to cause harm, But at the end, the judge made this like nice long speech. It was kind of crazy, even though he didn't grant the extension, he was like, uh, he said, I would hope Mr. So and So isn't so stupid to be making these phone calls. And then he looks over at him and he's like, because if you're worried about your clearance, you won't have to because they're going to take it away from you. Yeah, for doing something so stupid like this. Yeah. Um, oh yes, sir. But then he did continue to do it, and there was because the first time I had done it, they give you a temporary one, right? and then they set up a hearing for you to be heard about that whatever incident that you filed for. But
Mhm.
in between, like we went to the court, I was prepared and everything. His attorney couldn't be present, so they postponed it to another date. But that judge was supposed to have extended it to that further date. You know,
They didn't.
uh, the district attorney said we don't see where the judge extended it. You know, so they
Yeah,
failed. They failed in
that's
their
really
duty.
good.
Um,
Yeah.
and but it was still on the docket because I filed another like I filed not a show cause like that he violated. I call in. I was like, he's doing it again. Like after I've already got a temporary protection order, he's doing it again. Yeah, and this was literally the night of that judge extending it, or supposed to have extended it to that next court hearing. But then that next court hearing comes. That's when we actually deal with the real judge that said all that stuff prior. Um, and then he was like, okay, they didn't grant it, whatever. But then they still have a court date for the violation of it, you know. But now that has to be picked up by the district attorney, you know. Um, and they call me like I'm on my way to the courthouse the day of, and the district attorney calls me and he's like, you know, well, I don't see where they granted the extension, da 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 da. Da. So they ended up. He's like, this judge isn't going to do anything. The judge's name was Krantz, and the district attorney says, his nickname around here is Second Chance Krantz because he's like, yeah, he'll give people doing stupid stuff like this, all these second chances, which is like crazy. The one of the last things he said before he dismissed us was, he's like, these are the kind of cases I see that precede homicide cases. So, and he looks over at specifically him and her, my ex wife and him, and he says, one thing when you guys go to bed tonight, what you both need to be praying is that nothing ever happens to that man because they're coming for you first thing, you know. And then he looks over at me. He's like, and the same goes for you too. But you know, so it's like he knew that this idiot was, you know, calling and threatening my life. Yet,
Yeah.
and that's the craziest thing is, you have the court system is allowing people that are threatening the life of a parent, and but that person has more access to that person's kids than they do. And I'm like,
Yeah.
as a father, as a man, you have this sense of protectiveness, because men are supposed to be the protectors and all that stuff, so there is
Yeah.
that latent in there, and so like I have these children that are around this man that is clearly not mentally stable. If he's calling and making threats, he sent an email before doing the same thing like a year prior to that. um, and then I came across local people that knew him. um, One was even a coworker of his that works at the same place and was happy to detail this guy's transgressions. He's an alcoholic and all these things, definitely a narcissist. He's been through more than 3 marriages now. Can't even see it. His own kid doesn't even want to deal with him or have his grandchild around him. Yet my children, are allowed around this man. And I tried to list my children in the protective order, and they said no, because they were already living with him at that point. I'm like, if he's willing to hurt the father, what makes you think he's not going to try to hurt the kids that come after me?
Yeah. Yeah. I know what you mean because I went for a restraining order twice against my ex. And I remember asking my attorney, can I list our son in it? And she said, you have to have enough grounds to list a child in it. Like it's really hard to be granted
Hmm.
not only a restraining order against a person, but with a child involved. They either had to have witnessed some sort of like, physical altercation,
Yeah.
or that person has vocalized that they're going to hurt that kid. So I never got my restraining orders. So similar to you, it's really hard to get.
Oh, you
And
you
I
basically have
definitely
to have rock solid
yes.
evidence in order
Yeah,
to get it. Like beyond a shadow of a doubt, clearly, like in your
yeah,
damn face, they can't be like, well, I mean, the judge would look horrible and would lose his job if he were to not give that. It has to be
yeah,
that. in your face.
Yeah,
And
dude, I remember my experiences of trying to get it. So when I went in, I was like, there's no way they're going to grant this to him. And if they do, there's no way they're going to include my kid. Like, and they did. I remember the second I stepped out of that courtroom, I just broke down crying because I was like, what is
what the hell
happening?
just happened?
This, yeah, this is insane. I couldn't, I still can't believe it. I mean, my kid's 5. That restraining order gets dropped when he's 10. How is that in the child's best interest? I've never even harmed my kid, threatened to harm him, put him in any kind of danger. I was his primary parent for like freaking 3.5 years. Nothing ever happened to him, but now I'm unsafe.
Yeah,
It's like, it doesn't make any sense.
for sure. It's the same thing with me. You know, all that time I was good enough to be the father and all this stuff, and but then when it's like, okay, we're not together now, oh, he's abusive and all this
Yeah.
stuff, and then it's the thankfully, your kid's still young, so hopefully you'll be able to remedy the situation before he gets to the age that he can truly be mentally manipulated, because that's what
Mhm.
happened with mine really bad. They and I know how it works, like especially with this
Mhm.
person, because I went through the same thing, in where they will inundate you over and over and over with the same crap. You know, um, for me, in the relationship, it was hearing all the lies about other things that happened when I wasn't around, or like her and somebody else, or her and her ex, or her and her in-laws, or whatever. And you know, but the thing about it was, like, I could tell her stories almost better than she could, because she repeated them so many times over our relationship. And so,
Yeah, I know what you mean there.
yeah,
Yeah.
so that's that inundation, over and over again. It starts to retrain someone's brain. That's one of the things
Mhm.
I've had to unravel within myself. But then I'm like, okay, my children are having to do the same thing, because I know, like, certain things were being said to my children, like, he doesn't love us. He left us. We don't need him. We can do this on our own. We got each other. Things like that. Instilling that trauma bond into the
Mhm.
child, and then, well, daddy must be something wrong with daddy. He left us. He doesn't love us. Mommy's the only one that's there for us, to the point now that it's like they're very angry, and I don't even think they fully comprehend why they're angry. I when I was getting a little bit of visitation with them at a restaurant for 2 hours every other weekend, um, it was rarely went good. And at one point, my son was like being nasty towards me and everything, and he was getting ready to just walk out. He was standing at the edge of the table, and for a brief moment, I got him to break down just enough to admit that he's angry because he feels like I left him there, you know. And then, of course, now when I try to, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about,
Yeah.
uh,
It's
but
just sad. Sad to know that you're manipulating your own children,
to
that
cause, yeah,
yeah, to
just to cause
cause
harm
further
to somebody
harm.
else.
Mhm.
So that's another aspect of this whole arena that I personally got into, because I knew my children would be being abused in this way. I didn't understand maybe exactly the wording proper and whatnot, but I have educated myself a lot and read a lot, learned a lot from different sources, but people that actually have degrees in this stuff. One of them that I like a lot, his name's Dr. Craig Childress, and he's actually not far from you. He's in Washington. Um,
Oh, okay.
and he's a clinical psychologist. And what they do is their scope is beyond those idiot forensic psychology, evaluators and stuff like that, because you know he treats specifically people going through these um, actual mental conditions that are listed in the diagnostic manual, the DSM-5, that is used to diagnose all these different issues. Uh, and his mission is to educate the courts on the proper thing that's going on with psychological child abuse, or commonly known as parental alienation, but that's just a kick
Mhm.
name. Um,
Mhm.
and also to hold accountable all these therapists that are at the very minimum unconsciously or unknowingly participating in the abuse be in ways like if a kid says that such and such is going on, and instead of trying to delve into it and maybe see that that's not exactly what's going on, that because there's what they call the shared persecutory delusion,
Hmm.
so that would be like your ex, has his persecution is against you because you're the one he's got a problem with, and then it's
Yeah.
shared with the child,
Hmm.
but it's a delusion, you know because it's not real, and the
Yeah.
kid doesn't have a problem with the parent,
Yeah.
you know.
Exactly.
It's you, the angry, vindictive parent that has a problem with the other one. So you're trying to, so that
It's
it's
enforcing like your emotions onto them to feel the same.
yes, yeah, and
Yeah.
um, and so he's been on the clinical side of those things, and
Hmm.
so he sees um the overwhelming abuse that is happening through these systems, and one of the few that is actually standing up to try to fight it. And um, you can hire him to uh, evaluate your case. And so what he'll do is, like, if your child is being seen by a local therapist, he will be the one evaluating that therapist's notes and everything, making sure that person is doing what they're supposed to be doing, and then the ones we that are out there that have been screwing up and that he's been evaluating. I mean, he's sending their information to the boards that you know are supposed to be holding these people accountable and whatnot. Um, and while it's still in the earlier stages, it is gaining traction, um, and scaring these people into having to do their job properly. Mind your P's and Q's, make sure you're not screwing up, because you could easily lose your license to practice this. And then what you went to school for, all that money's gone. You're screwed. You're never going to get to do it again, you know? And it's funny, like you should follow his Facebook page because he's constantly putting up stuff like that. And it's kind of funny because he's excited about what he's doing, bringing down these child
Wow.
abusers, so-called therapists that are
Do you
supposed to
think
be.
he's actually making a difference? Do you think he's
Oh, for
actually
sure.
helping?
So
That's good.
my girlfriend has been dealing with parental alienation, a lot of this court abuse stuff, false allegations, all that stuff. So that's how we met, is through a support group that's local,
Okay.
um, and she hired him to evaluate her situation, and it has helped in her situation specifically because they had um, accused her of child, like assaulting one of her
Well,
kids, and it was all bullshit. Um, and they just recently, uh, his attorney just recently dropped that charge against
um,
her because now Childress is coming in evaluating what these therapists are saying is going on with these kids, these two boys, and now the script is flipped. Now, instead of her having to defend herself against these false allegations of assault, you have a professional coming in saying these children are being psychologically abused, and it's going to point right to him. So he's gonna
mhm.
now he's having to be on the defensive. So like, oh, let's go ahead and drop this thing against her. So maybe it'll make us look better. No, no, And then her attorney said that Childress has been a part of two other cases in the local city nearby that he knew of, So he's helping, and that's across the damn country, So he's
Yeah.
all over. He puts up reviews of ones that he can of information, and he's like, oh, look here, look what I found, and he just points it all out and breaks it down, what codes and what stuff they're breaking, and so he's at
Is
like
it
the forefront.
is he expensive to hire?
No, not really. I want to say it was like $1,500. That's it. And then he consults with that parent like one time. And then from then on, he coordinates with your attorney. That way, it's like, because he can't take you on as a client. Otherwise, there would be, um, you know, legal stuff against that. Uh, so that's just that one consult with you, and then he goes and coordinates with your attorney, and then of course gets all the paperwork, like the therapist notes and whatnot. Uh, there, we there was a therapist that these boys were seeing prior to the most recent ones, and he definitely was participating in the abuse because like he was the one that even tried to tell the court, "Oh yeah, I do believe she did assault him, the boy," with no evidence or anything, just his belief and not even doing a proper diagnostic of this kid's condition for the shared persecutory delusion um and then it's also called Munchausen syndrome. It's in there,
Yeah.
you know. It's Munchausen by proxy is what it's called. um and so it's like you have this group over here of some doctors that are trying to push forward this agenda of a name called parental alienation. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it does describe what the hell's going on, but when you go into court, they won't accept that because it's not a diagnostic term, you know.
Yeah.
So what you have to do is you have to list off what's in the DSM-5, which is psychological child abuse or Munchausen by proxy, you know, because
Something that they do recognize.
yeah,
Yeah.
and that the court can legitimately look at and say, okay, this is that's what they use is that they go by that. um, and so there's that kind of rift right now where you have people on the side that believes in that the psychological child abuse, let's go after the DSM, but then you have these others here that are trying to get this terminology of parental alienation put into the DSM, and uh, the board that handles that, the whatever goes into that manual, they keep rejecting it because they're like, there's already a terminology for this condition. Here it is, you know. Um, and but the courts don't really understand this, and
Yeah.
then you have um, a system, therapists and uh, guardian ad litems and all these other people that are they're all in their little system together, and one doesn't want to piss off the other because then they're going to get ostracized and not get any business because everybody else is
Yeah.
still in the buddy system. So they kind of have to go along and become a part of the abuse.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. I'm on my second minors council. The first one actually recused herself from our case because she also voiced that I was a flight risk. I was really upset about that, and I filed in civil court defamation on her because that is defamation.
Yeah,
You know,
because it
you
caused you
can't.
harm,
Yeah.
and you can prove that. Yeah.
And when I filed it, I hadn't even served her. I filed it, and you can Google and it'll show up there's a case. And I guess she saw it
Wow.
before I even served her, and she recused herself. And I was like, huh, maybe feeling a little guilty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That gets me
but
to like the hitting the record kind of thing because when uh when I finally decided to take my ex to court because it had been fighting for a long time. Like it was the end of 2022 that I finally got. Was it 22? I think it was 22. I might, yeah. Um, I got an attorney, and that was in September of 22, and then in December of 22, I stopped paying child support. I'd been paying all the way up till then. I just stopped then because I'm like, I'm not getting to see my children.
yeah,
And I'm not, now I have to take this woman to court in order to see my children. But why am I going to pay her to fund her defense against me? That,
yeah,
by law, you're not there are laws in the books, that not that don't have to do with J&D, but in regular, circuit court, you don't uh have to fund the defense of your opponent. But in J&D court, doesn't matter. You're paying them child support. Well, it's for the children. Bullshit. Like
Yeah.
the woman said she makes $0 to $200 a week, and yet look who's sitting right next to her, the one of the highest paid attorneys in the county. How is she paying for that attorney?
Yeah.
And even at one point, her attorney said in court that she was having problems paying her bill because I stopped paying child support. You just
Right there.
said she's using child support to
Yeah.
pay you. You know,
That's insane. Wow.
didn't care, didn't care. But then
Yeah.
the judge said, I'm gonna give you 4 months to show that you are gonna start paying and I'm like, okay, whatever. So I paid. One of those months, I was short $250. 250.
This is so crazy. Yeah.
And the judge was like, well, I'm going to go ahead and do what I said I was going to do, and you're going to go to jail today. And I was like, what? And I was like, wait a minute. And I had an attorney at that time, which she was fucking worthless. Just took my money. That's all she was
Yeah.
of value for. And like, I was like, wait a minute, that's not right. Like, how can they do that? It's over money. Like, I was paying. I was just a little short because I testified.
Yeah, just
I didn't have a lot of
250.
money. I paid all that I could, and it was still didn't matter. You're gonna go to jail,
It's
and
insane.
and it was for 6 months.
6 months over
Yep,
$250.
yep, 6 months. Or I had to pay 3,500, and they're like, as I'm sitting in the cell right on the outside of the courtroom, my attorney's going back and forth, and she's like, do you have the 3,500? If you pay it right now, then you can avoid going. I'm like, no. I was like, but if they give me like 30 days, I can figure it out. I'll find a way. And she came back and said, the mother said no, that she didn't want to take that offer. I'm like, the mother said no.
Yeah.
When did she become the judge?
Yeah,
You
why does
know?
she get a say?
Yeah, like I didn't know she creates laws does that. So I'm like, wait a minute, it didn't matter. Didn't matter. It was a quick
It's
way to go in,
crazy.
and so now I've got this charge, thing on my record that says I was put in jail for child abandonment.
That's what it says? Child
Yes,
abandonment.
yeah, yeah, for abandonment.
Wow.
I'm like, so it says contempt of court and abandonment. I'm like, what? I'm literally here in court trying to fight to see my children, and you charge me
Insane.
with abandoning them?
Wow.
Yeah. So
Now I've heard other people serving time and the same thing. It was for child support, but they labeled it as something else. It's like their way of knowing
it's
you
contempt of
can't
court.
put someone in jail for this.
Yeah, they call it contempt of court because the organization it's a voluntary child support is a voluntary program. They don't tell you that. It's supposed to be a voluntary program, um, and you they hey, you're they sign somebody has to come in and ask for it. Somebody, you know one parent or the other has to ask for it because again it's a voluntary program, and then you have an organization within the state. Each state calls it something different. Here it's
Mhm.
Division of Child Support Enforcement. You got to think about that
Yeah.
word, force you. And technically the law says, like, because she's supposed to a parent, the other parent who wants the child support is supposed to be able to get some kind of help, um, but they can go and apply for these programs. First they have to apply for assistance from the state before they can even apply for child support, because the way it works, it was for the under the Social Security Act to help out these fatherless kids. And usually it was back then when it first came out, it was because a lot of um, you know in those times those fathers were skipping out. Now it's it doesn't matter any case. So it was meant to offset uh, all this money that the government was funding to these low income people. And they were like, well, we create the child, okay, the father should be paying something. And so they created Title 4D, which is child support. But it's not, um, even though it's under the Social Security Act, it's not an actual federal law that way. It's an incentive to the states to uh, to how well they run their enforcement program. So what it says is, for every dollar that you get one of your citizens to pay into the program, we will give you $1 to match. So it incentivizes them, because they're like, oh, well, that
Mm.
money's supposed to go to a child, to the parent, and then that parent takes care of a child. But they don't tell you that they also get the kickback from the state and from the Fed. And who gets paid on that? The people that run DCSE, the judges, that they're because they're all part of that Title 4D program. So the judges wouldn't have a salary if the government wasn't incentivizing them to get. And so the bigger that pool gets, guess what? The bigger their salaries get. You know.
Yep.
And then they created Title 4E, which covers them taking a child completely from both parents and putting it into foster care, where they get a
Yeah.
significant amount of money, which opens up the can of worms of legal child trafficking within our country.
That one is scary to know that it's happening everywhere.
Yeah. So if they
So
can't get
scary.
you, somebody was telling me, was it you that was telling me that you heard where their intention in the long run is, yeah, they might
Yeah.
first they want to get a parent on child support, but then beyond that, they want to be able to get that child away from both parents because they get even
Yep.
more money for D or for Title 4E. You know,
Yep. Yep. That's basically their long game plan in all of this. And that's why when you first go into a courtroom, they basically, from my understanding, is talking to other individuals. They look at both parents. Now, they're not listening when we're talking. They are looking for a few key things.
writing down, yeah.
What does each person do for a living? Who loves this kid more? Whoever makes the most money is who we're not going to give custody to at first. And then who loves the kid more is who we're going to take custody also from. Because whoever has the most money is who we want to get money from, child support, other
Yep.
means,
Yeah.
whoever's going to keep paying attorneys to keep fighting. And then who loves this kid more? We could take custody away from the dad because he makes the most amount of money. And then later on, take custody away from the child and give him from the mom and give him to the dad because she loves the child more. So it's a game to keep this case going longer and longer.
Yeah.
And then in the end, whoever the abuser is going to get custody of this kid because they're wanting that person to screw up so that eventually the kid gets taken away from both parents and put into the foster system and then they make money that way. It's a sick, never ending
Yeah.
utilizing these kids to make money,
And it's hard
essentially.
to argue what you're pointing out because
Yeah.
if you look at it statistically, what you're saying is accurate. The one that truly is the abuser is the one oftentimes being given custody.
Yes. Yes. I actually read somebody was like posting it around on all these different groups that we're in. Just because you got full custody of the kid does not mean you're the better parent. It was like, like a sticker that they're passing around kind of quote thing. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, oh my God, thank you for those words. Because I remember losing custody and thinking, is it because I'm not a good parent?
Yeah. Yeah.
And that helped me to kind of realize and wake up like, oh, okay, this is just the game that they play.
I talking to my girlfriend. She said something very similar to what you said. It's you know, from her perspective, because as a mother, is that it's I'm trying to think of the right word. Very detrimental to your not necessarily your image, but like the way people see you, because you know it's like, oh, you're a mother that had her child taken away. What did you
Yeah.
do? What's wrong with
Yeah.
you? Or where it's like fucking nothing. It
Yeah.
was literally the people that are supposed to protect me and uphold the law and uphold their oath to the Constitution are the ones that took my child, that broke the law. I was doing right. I was acting like a good parent, just taking care of my kid. I don't need nobody else's help. But they step
Yeah.
in and think they know, um, or well, it's a sick game.
Yeah.
Drag it out as long as you possibly can, because that's how
Yep.
they make money.
Yep. And it's and what she's saying is absolutely true. Like I totally feel for her on that. I think there's a lot of us parents who don't have custody at all, don't get to see our kids. And right away, people wonder, what did you do wrong?
Sure.
They question us because that's how we basically grew up thinking that if you lost custody of your kid, you did something wrong. So you did something to deserve it.
Yeah.
My cat.
And then
And
in your
it's just
case,
so sad because it's not true.
you got screwed even worse because the false allegations and corrupt judge that put that dog shit uh, protection order on you that caused you to lose your job. You said so.
Yeah,
But oh, you're still gonna pay exactly how much we say you're gonna pay. If
yeah,
not, we're gonna take your
yeah,
license. We're gonna take your passport. We're gonna throw you in jail. You know what?
yeah.
Like,
I've heard this happening to others where they slam a restraining order on them, and some of us work professions where that restraining order literally makes it to where we can't work anymore. I worked as a teacher. You guys have put a restraining order on me where my son is included in it. How do you think a school is going to look at it
yeah,
when I apply for a job and they see that I can't even have contact with my own child? They
yeah.
think, well, she must have did something to hurt that kid,
And it's
and now I can't get a
no
job as a
evidence,
teacher.
and no
Yeah,
evidence. You know, it's you know, yeah. Growing up, I'm sure you heard the uh, the whole saying. Everybody was like, oh, you're in America where you're innocent until proven guilty. Wrong. And that has
wrong.
completely flipped. You are guilty
Yeah.
until you prove yourself innocent.
Yes, yes. In fact, we had a conversation about this earlier where anytime I've been accused of any accusations, the first things they say to me is, how can you prove this to be wrong? And I'm literally wondering, what does he have proof to show that it's true? They do not need to have
Exactly.
any evidence to come in and accuse you of something, but you have to have some kind of evidence to prove that
Yeah,
it's wrong.
which is outrageous. That's a judge that
Yeah.
told you that, right?
Yes.
So, judge is supposed to understand immediately the burden of proof is on the person making the accusation. Okay, sir, you're saying, Mrs. Here did X, Y, and Z. Now here's your opportunity to lay that out and prove that that actually
Yeah.
happened, and yet
That's how it
literally
should
had
work.
nothing.
Yeah, that's how it should work. It's
Yeah,
it's it's unfortunate that this is our legal system
yeah.
that we're in.
So you're guilty until you prove yourself innocent. And
Yep.
then uh, then you have the jail system. Of course, how many people are in jail for child support bullshit. So
Yep.
that's there. So over 100 years ago, this country banned what's called debtor's prison. So putting in somebody in jail because they owed some kind of a debt. Well, their little loophole is that, well, we're a court and we told you you have to pay this. And if you don't do it, it means you're in contempt of us. So we're going to throw you in jail for contempt. That's their little loophole around that. But I'm like,
No.
your little loophole is is a state thing. There's this thing above you called the federal law and the Constitution, and it says nothing below me can trump me. Yet,
Mhm.
so your little contempt means nothing to that
Yeah.
federal law, but yet they can get away with it. Why? Because there's no oversight into
Yeah.
what these people do. And then, I'm sure you noticed, are you allowed to film in child and family court?
Nope.
No. Why? Why? And so you have to ask that question. Why do you not want what you're doing to be filmed? And
Yeah.
there's only they'll sit there and they'll say, well, it's for the because there's minors here, so we're trying to protect the children. Bullshit, because rarely
Yeah.
do they ever testify, you know, and
Yep. I've never seen kids in those courtrooms.
very
Never.
rarely. Every once, I
Yeah.
mean, they really don't even like for the kids to have to testify and all this stuff, so they try
Exactly.
to avoid it. So the only thing left that you could be trying to hide, you're trying to hide something. And what are you trying to hide? Well, that you're
Yep.
breaking the law. You
Yep.
don't want the population to know we are breaking the law every single day here. Because people would
Yep.
do, like, you think your 5 people would be something, they would have droves of people, you know? Protesting. And I feel like that's like because I love that you said that because I mean that's exactly what I would love to do. Bring it to that kind of light. It needs that
Yeah.
kind of attention for
It
them to
does.
finally do something.
Yep, it does. And there was an individual. He was trying. I'd spoken to him, and he was trying to get people together to go protest in front of the White House. And I thought that was a great idea, because once
Yeah,
they see that so many of us, they're going to have to understand that there's a problem occurring.
yeah.
But the problem that I saw he was having, because I went to several of the meetings, is all of us are kind of distracted with blaming each other, like gender wise. Well, the
Hmm.
women, if
Yeah,
you notice, there's like social groups where they're like women fighting for custody, and then there's the groups that are like parental allegation, is happening to fathers. And what they don't realize is it's parents. It's
yeah,
not just
absolutely.
moms. It's not just dads. It's happening to both of us. And we need to realize that and get together and become united in order to make a difference.
You know what I've seen is because I've looked at both sides just like that. Yeah, I'm in groups that are primarily fathers, and then there's
Yeah.
some that are a mixture, um, and then of course my girlfriend, she's in ones that are for mothers, uh,
Yeah.
and you do see a lot of that where one's blaming the, and I can't say that I'm not guilty of it to an extent, because of my, but I don't really point, well, all mothers are bad. No,
Yeah.
it's not. That's not that. I don't see it that way. That's just stupid. um,
Mhm.
the only thing I can see is that the way the system is, and because of the way society has been for the last several decades, that it does a little bit more proportionally affect men, only because men typically were the breadwinners. So, like you were saying
Yeah.
earlier, they're going to go after the person that's got the most money because they're going to pay
Yeah.
the child support. So I think that's the only reason why it has more proportionally hit men than it has women. But that is changing now
Yeah.
because they want whoever can give them the most money, you know,
Yes.
and um, uh, it's I lost track of what I was thinking, where I was
And
going with
I
that, but
also think like I also think like in my situation, I wasn't making the most amount of money, but in order to keep up with the attorney fees and things like that, I got ended up getting multiple jobs just to keep up. And then when he quit his job, they saw that and was like, "Oh, now she's making the most amount of money." And
I
so
see.
that's why it's not really geared towards sex. It's just geared
Yeah,
towards
yeah. As
who has the most drive, love, and financial, possibilities to hand to them.
and I'm really glad that you brought that up because I remember when you had mentioned it the other day, and I was thinking, oh yeah, I wanted to bring that up and talk about that. So I'm glad you did, because I definitely feel that the only way we're gonna make enough change, like we definitely have to get past that idea. Okay, it's, well, all these bad mothers, or it's all these deadbeat dads. That's bullshit.
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
we need to come together as a team of
yeah,
targeted parents and being like, it doesn't,
yeah,
we're here to support each other, and at the end to make change so this stop happening to so many children, because in the end
exactly.
those are the ones that get hurt the most.
Yep,
Now, I do like, I keep seeing statistics that show, um, per week, like I think the number is like 22 to 11, like 22 men versus around 10 to 11 women commit suicide every
yeah, for the
week
buffers.
in this, in just
Yeah,
in this country alone,
it's sad.
because of this experience, the,
Yeah.
and not just necessarily parental alienation, but it also could be court corruption that you having your kid taken away from you, you know.
Oh
Uh,
yeah, it is very draining financially, emotionally, and it's exhausting. I know I've heard it over and over again by other people, but it makes you feel crazy stepping into these courtrooms and leaving and being like, "What the heck just happened?"
yeah, yeah, because you don't know
So,
what's going to happen when you walk in there, and it typically
yeah,
isn't what you expect.
yeah,
And then, not to mention the, uh, for me at least, like leading up to a court date, like even a couple of weeks leading up to it, I start getting more and more and more anxiety, you know.
yeah, I do too. Yeah,
And then you get there, and then yeah, you're exhausted after, you're like, oh my god,
yes,
because
mhm,
it's just all that pent up
Yep.
nervousness and anxiety and stress because you don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Especially now, like, you know, what I've been through, and then what like there's a chance that all of a sudden you could be thrown in jail for shit that you never thought would ever even happen. Like because
Exactly.
you're an American.
Literally, our lives are in their hands and
Yeah,
our kids are in their hands, and we're just begging for anything,
yeah,
to be involved with our kids. And when you do that, of course there's going to be a lot of stress and a lot of worry, and we're trying to prepare ourselves, all these notes and stuff we take in. It's so exhausting. And so I really feel for these parents that are committing suicide, because I get it.
breaks my
It's
heart to see it every time I see
it's
something.
so sad. And why isn't there enough people talking about this and realizing this? In fact, somebody showed me statistics the other day about how what is our statistics on, like, car accidents, all the deaths, different reasonings for deaths.
Hmm, hmm.
And I feel like parental alienation is making the top of the list at this point.
Yeah, it's getting up there. You know,
It's getting up there.
for
And
sure. Because you think it's
why?
happening in every county in every state.
Yeah, I see it all the time. I see rest in peace getting posted on all these different social groups I'm in, and it's another parent that hadn't seen their kid in, who knows, 5 or more years. And it's like, because our kids give us purpose, and they're literally taking their purpose away. What do they expect?
Yeah.
This is so sad.
And that's I've seen memes on there on Facebook and whatnot. It's like family court, the place where you go to have your rights taken away or whatever. And because you go into it, you're a good parent. You're just trying to take care of your family and do the right thing, and you're thrown to the fucking wolves.
Yeah,
And you don't have a clue. Um, and if you're lucky to afford a freaking attorney, they're
yeah,
usually garbage because
yeah,
they're not going to help you in the long run if it's going to make the court look bad, you know.
yeah.
Um, and then and that's again lucky if you can afford an attorney. My
Mhm.
my ex did something. She tells you how like strategically psychopathic she is. So she went to as many local attorneys that she could and just had a consult.
Consultation.
Yeah. So because that's all it takes. Oh well, this person's consulting with me, so I can't represent you now
You can't
simply because
represent
I
that
just
person.
yeah. And even
Yeah,
with like because I didn't have the money, I was like, how do I go and get an attorney so I can finally see my kids? And I tried it's a legal aid. It's what they call it. I don't know. They might have a different name in each state, but it's supposed to be to help you, in situations like this. Well, they consulted with her, so now they won't help me. Even though I'm
yeah,
like, you're not representing her at all. She has
exactly.
another attorney, and
Yeah,
you're supposed to be free legal aid to help me. No, sorry, we can't do anything about it. I'm like, well, give me somebody in another office that hasn't consulted with her. You're throughout the whole country, the whole state, And no, sir, we can't do that. There's nothing we can do to help you. What? Like that corruption, and so there's
yeah,
any way they can bring you down. And that's why like it becomes that hopelessness, defeated,
yeah.
that I think you commented on that one post I put up not too long ago, or I was reposting it, where a father had committed suicide on Christmas. I think it was Christmas Day.
It's Christmas Day. Yeah, that's the last one I remember seeing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
I
woke
really
up to
sad.
seeing that thing, and I was, just getting ready in the morning. I was sitting, you know, in my bathroom time, scrolling, and I saw that, and I literally, I cried. I was like,
Oh yeah, me
this
too.
killed me.
As soon as I saw that, I broke down too. I was like, there goes another.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
he looked like I saw all his pictures. He looked like a really nice guy. A lot
yeah,
of people in the group knew him because he had been active in that group. Um,
that's what I heard. Yeah, I read the comments on that too. I
yeah,
was like,
and then of course, now his daughter, one day when she grows up and she realizes that she was being psychologically abused by the other parent,
yeah,
and because of that and not getting to see me, my father committed suicide. That's going to stick
yeah,
with her and fuck her up
yes,
for the rest of her life.
the rest of her life.
Yeah,
Yep, yep,
they don't care. and neither does the alienator, the one causing it. They don't care. They don't care that this is
No.
causing lifelong damage to their children. You know.
What I will say to these parents who are thinking about it, this is what helps me to keep going. If you kill yourself, you're making it easier for them to eliminate you and erase you from the kid's life forever. So
Yeah.
that use that as a way to say I'm not going to do it. Don't make
Yeah.
it easy for
Yeah.
them.
Just your just the act of living is an act of defiance against them. You know.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, you're absolutely right on that one. I hate to see anybody do it, but I completely understand. I've been in those
Me too.
depressing states several
Yeah.
times over the last 5 years, and to the point where I've had that overwhelming sensation wash over me, like very terrifying. And that just it would lead me to do something to harm myself. You know, I don't know, but there was always that little quiet voice in the back, your whatever, your higher consciousness or something that was, has was there for me speaking like, no, no, don't, it's okay, or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a daily struggle.
Yeah.
It's not like, uh like I was joking around. Some people might take this as offensively, but we were watching a show or something. It was Outlander, and I was like, one of the main character or the guy was like uh, brutally abused and raped by one of the other characters, and I was like, I'd rather go through that than what I've been through the last 5 years, because at least that will happen and it's over, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas this is every freaking day, and
Yeah.
it's all. And tell me it's not all consuming. You don't think about your kid like multiple times an hour,
Exactly. Exactly.
every hour that you're conscious.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, and with that comes pain, and you
Yeah.
can't get away from it. And so it's like suffering all the time, and there's
Yeah.
no, it's not like I hate to say, my mother, she lost a child before I was born. He was hit by a car when he was 2. So that's a tragic and horrible thing, but there is closure in that
Yes.
still.
Yeah.
Even though there's trauma, there is still, you can come to a sense of closure. You can go through the levels of grief, and come to that closure. Whereas this, you can't grieve because they're still
Yeah.
living and breathing and walking around,
Exactly.
and
Exactly.
in, in my case, they've become, they were the sweet little kids, but the abuser turned them into abusers. So it's like I can't even be around them without it
Yeah.
being even worse, because they say horrible things or do things. Like the last thing my son ever said to me, it was two things. Uh, second to last thing he said, I don't respect a man who doesn't take care of his family. And what are you talking about? Like, I pay child support. You
Yeah.
live in my home. You're driving a car I pay for. You know what I'm saying? All this other stuff, all those toys, your game system, all that shit. We pay for it. You know. But and then the last thing he said, like, I was having visitation with my daughter, and she was being nasty and walked away, and he was driven up, and he went to go inside this store to get her, and I was just standing out watching, not approaching or anything, trying to stay away from drama. All I said to him was, I love you, Gabe, because his name's Gabe. And he said, fuck you, nigga. I'll,
Whoa.
that was the last thing my son ever said to me. Like,
Wow.
wow. Yeah. Like, okay. Like, wow. And the craziest thing is, like, so he's 16 now. Daughter's 14. I have stepkids from that marriage. Um,
Mhm.
the oldest one is a boy. He's what is today? The 5th. Yeah, he'll be 31 in like 3 days. um,
Wow.
so he, saw how things were when his mom and his dad were divorcing and separating and going through all their drama, and even before that, like all the crazy stuff that went on in that household, like that he's told me about and whatnot. Um, he witnessed all that, But when I met him, he was like 12 years old. Of course, you don't like the guy that comes around.
Yeah.
So for the longest time, the three of them made my life a miserable hell for a few years. It was nightmare. I'm like, yeah, a step parent is truly a saint, especially if they really care. Um, and I was taking care of him to this day. He's my best friend now, and he'll constantly uh, talk me up. And he's like, man, that man was always there for us, when nobody else would be. He bought us Christmas presents when nobody did. He's like, he bought us food, had put a roof over our home. And he's like, and we treated him like shit, you know. And but now he's like, that's the one of the best men I've ever known. He's like, whenever I need, you're the only one that actually answers and responds. No, nobody else. He calls mama. He even calls dad. Nobody will step up for him in true times of need except for me. You know. So even though I've had him as support, as an adult, my kids don't won't listen to him and what he has to say. Like my son and him used to be like thick as thieves. There was that was his, that was his big brother. He loved him, and his big brother absolutely adored the little guy. That was his little buddy. But then when all this stuff happened, uh, what she tried to do was use him and his 2-year younger brother uh, to try to harm me. So she would call them and he did this or did that, making up lies because she could trying to manipulate him. But he's like, no, that's bullshit. I know he didn't do that. I'm not gonna play this game. I'm not gonna go hurt somebody else for you. But the younger one still manipulated even into his 20s, and he's like, calling me, where you at? I'm gonna beat your ass. Da 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 da. So I'm like, she has her own sons doing it. Does make sense that she would make her boyfriend do it,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know. So I've had to uh, I've had to learn to let go because of that. It's I've spent 5 years now trying to fight for them. I've done everything I could. I've gone to court, uh, paid everything that I had to pay, could pay. You know,
No
tried
pain.
tried to have them in my life. Even tried to have civil conversations. Tell me what you're feeling, why you are so upset and whatnot, so we can discuss this and get past it. And it's can never do that because all the excuses that they have, were just things that they were parroting from the other parent. You know, um, and to the point where one of the last times that I saw my son, he was getting aggressive. Even tried to attack me. But then his mommy jumped up in the way, and I was like, "Yeah, that's the only reason he's even acting aggressive now is because you're here." And that was the whole thing. It's like she would do this crap where I'm supposed to see the kids, but she would sit outside. I'm supposed to be having my visitation time. She'd just sit outside. Well, that gave them incentive. Oh, I don't want to be here, so I'm going back to the car. You know, like that's interference. And they wouldn't do anything. Wouldn't
How
do
long were
anything.
your visits supposed to be? And she's sitting out there in the
Yeah,
car.
yeah. It wasn't
Like how
until like
long?
the second to last court hearing I got to finally the judge was like, "Yeah, you can't be there. You need to drop her off and leave." And even said,
Mhm.
"Ma'am, I do believe you have uh, um, sabotaged a few of these visitations," but didn't do nothing to her. Even though I
Yeah.
filed show cause because of custody interference, um,
Yeah.
she the judge even said, "I do believe you did do this," but nothing happened. So why? Because that's not the money person, you know.
Yeah.
And then if she were to go to jail, the kids would go to me, and I wouldn't have to pay nobody goddamn child support.
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Exactly.
So that's they
Can't
no
have that.
no can't have
It's
that.
then the money coming in.
So I mean, I'm at that point in my life where I just can't stand going through the pain anymore and suffering, and it's like, and it's been kind of with my stepson. He's like, that's my brother and sister, man. I love them, but you know what? Screw them. If that's how they're gonna treat you, that ain't right. You don't deserve to, go through that hell. You gotta live, man. Like he's been my
Mhm.
biggest advocate,
It's
uh,
nice.
and I would, I mean, I don't know what I would do without that little bit of extra support. 'Cause my whole family kind of turned their back on me. Like, you got your family there supporting you. My sister
Yeah.
and her family, they were the local ones. They took her side and have helped her keep my kids from me, and to the
Mhm.
even extent of like creating lies. Like, this is like, it blew my mind. Like, the more healing that I have to go through. Like, this person I grew up with, that you love because they're your, blood, your family. Uh, we were in court. She came in to testify against me to help my ex, and I'm sitting in the witness room with my stepson and his girlfriend who had witnessed some stuff, and she was just outside that room, sitting on a bench, talking to a friend of theirs. He's like a horse trainer, because they go to this barn and they do volunteer their time there, and he was coming to, I guess, testify that he could be somebody that the kids could go to, because there was this thing that they thought the court would take from both of us for this stuff. And she's sitting there talking to this guy, and she says a bunch of stuff that's just was outrageous. But one of the things that stood out in my mind because of how actually stupid it was, she said to him, "We think there's something wrong with him because he was born by cesarean section." What?
What?
That makes no fucking sense. Like, my mother passed away in 2010, and I'm like, because my sister's a narcissist and had like kind of control of my mom's time and all this stuff, and but my mom was still an awesome person, and I'm like, if my mom heard you say that our mom heard you say the things you've said about me and all this stuff, she would have knocked you in. Like, talking about a loving, kind woman who never hurt, do anything. My mom would have smacked her across her face for
Yeah.
that, because it's like, she gave birth to me. She knew what went
Yeah.
down. She raised me. She knows there's nothing wrong with me, and it's the first time any of that crap has ever been said. Like, even to the point, like, I called my father, who's still living. He's in his 80s, and I was like, I said, "So I hear you think there's something wrong with me because I was born by a C-section." He's like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" I was like, "This is what I heard," and he's like, "Well, I don't know where you heard that from. I don't think nothing like that." I was like, "Your daughter. She went to court and said it to a bunch of people." But he won't. He won't. That's like his golden child. He won't do anything about it. Won't stand up. Won't do
Yeah,
nothing.
that's unfortunate.
So
That's really weird.
I've had nobody. I've had to stand on my own and get through all that. And like, I've had multiple people tell me that they don't know how they would have gotten through it without offing themselves if they didn't have their family around
Exactly.
giving that support. I'm like, I don't know what to tell you. I was like, I've had to learn to go somewhere special inside myself to fight to stay alive, because
Definitely.
there's those times where you end up feeling like, "Oh, what's the point? Why even be
Yeah.
alive? My family's gone. They've been taken from me. They've turned their back on me, and that's never gonna come back. And my children, the reason I had for getting up every morning and doing what I do, not
Yeah.
only were ripped from me and taken from me, but they were
Turned against
turned
you.
badly. So the only thing
Yeah.
left for me is this. What we're doing right now is like, you know what? Fuck it. If this is how it's gonna be, I'm gonna speak out, and you're gonna hear what I gotta say. And then,
Yeah.
if I can help even one family not go through this crap, or one man and woman not uh, hurt themselves because of this, then I've done
Yeah.
something good. But hopefully, I can help a lot of folks.
Yeah. Definitely. I think it's a good thing you're trying to do.
Turn my personal mission into a crusade. That's what I'd like to do. and,
Mhm.
and so I would be awesome. I'd love to figure out how to organize a thing between everybody and go to the White House and
Yeah.
do
Same.
a
Same.
protest. Yeah, especially with
Yeah.
the president that's coming in, because I think he would hear it more than these liberals, because the liberals they're pushing those agendas that the courts and whatnot use to enslave us. you know
Yeah.
so I feel like there's potential for that, especially now. Even I don't know. This might be wishful hoping, but like, I don't know if you follow the news and what's going on with the politics and stuff, but Trump has put together Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy to, and they created this thing called the Department of Government Efficiency, right? And
Hmm.
they're going to go in and look at all the garbage that the government is spending money on and like yoink 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 bye bye bye, and I'm like, where one of those places can be Social Security Act, and maybe not the whole thing, like for like people that have been paying into Social Security for retirement. I'm not talking about getting rid of that. I'm talking about like the Title 4E and D. You know, we need to get rid of that. You get rid of Title 4D. Yeah, God, you probably. I'm trying to think of the numbers. It's in the billions. The Fed gives to the states billions of dollars to as the incentives for those programs, and that's just D. That's not including E for the ones that taken in foster care and all that stuff. So get rid of that. It's useless. It's garbage. You're just funding programs that are fueling people that are committing federal crimes, against the people. And I don't feel any remorse. They'll all lose their jobs. These bailiffs will lose their jobs. These court reporters, or administrators, court clerks, they're going to lose their jobs. Sorry. Go get a real job. Stop screwing the people. Bye.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree on that one.
So I'm hoping. I don't know, because it's not something they talk about. This stuff isn't really something they talk about that much on the big political stage, which
Yeah.
is why you need more protests. You know,
Yep.
and I feel like it's getting there. The internet and the explosion that it's had in this part of the in the 2020s and the 20 teens is like what we're doing now. We can talk to each other so easily, and you're on,
Yeah.
what, 2,000 miles away or something,
Yeah.
So, when we can coordinate, not just in our local area, but we can coordinate with everybody throughout the nation so that we can eventually affect a huge change. Um,
Exactly.
I'm probably similar to you. I'm passionate, so I'm gonna speak and talk, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna cuss, because I like, the F word is one of the best words out there, in my opinion.
I think too because we're angry. Like we have the right to be angry right
Yeah,
now with everything that's going down.
sure. I mean, I
Yeah.
feel like I was just thinking about this a lot the last couple months. You're at that age too, where I'm sure you can remember every morning. What did you have to do at the start of your school day? I
Yep.
pledge allegiance to the flag for the
Yep.
republic for which it stands. So you had to, the Pledge of Allegiance every day. It was hammered into you, you know,
Yeah.
and that this is the greatest country and da 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 da. Where? Like, how can this be? And then, like, now I'm questioning. I'm like, I
Me
love
too.
America.
Me
I love the
too.
United
Yeah.
States, but you have made a mockery of our country and the
Yep.
founding fathers and what they set up for us to protect us.
Yep.
Because you're little loopholes, because you want to make money, you know.
Yep.
And that guy that I was telling you about earlier today, Alfonso, like, there's a lot of people like him that they break it down really well. Like, you have the Fed and then you have the states, but the people are supposed to be above all that shit. We
Mm-hmm.
come first, because it's uh because we were set up as a Christian nation, so you have that core of, creator, God, whatever you want to call it. That's the top law right there, and then what's immediately below it? Us. Because what did God do? Created us and then gave us this entire world for us to thrive and live on. And then, even in the Bible, which, all these laws are based off of, um, it's, you have that creator God, and then God, your creator, bestows a gift upon you in the form of children.
Mm-hmm.
That's yours. Not the states, not the federal governments, it's yours. But they use these administrative legislators, so it's like you got the federal and then the states, and they have their own little, legislatures, and then they create all these little bullshit laws and rules that are to manage their business, the state, you know, because you have most people don't realize is the federal government and the state. Uh, so whatever state you're in, Washington, Virginia, Texas, each of them, they're all corporations now. So when you think of this, like in my case, the state of Virginia or the Commonwealth of Virginia, that's actually a corporation now. Uh, so every corporation that is formed gets a little number, and you can look them up on the Federal Registry, and they're a corporation, and there's United States. Yeah, it's but it's different than the the constitutional side, where the free people, we are at the top there, and then they created these subcategories through corporations that the states and the Fed operate off of. So technically, the way it's supposed to work is that like a corporation can't sue a person. So when they sue you, they're suing your corporate name. So when you were born, you were given a social security number, and that social security number is technically linked to a bank, and that's how anytime you take a loan, they use your social security number. Why? Because that's a bank account in your name in the Fed, and they draw off that. So a bank never actually loses money. Like they're not actually taking their money and handing it to you. They're taking money from the Fed that's actually in your name, your account, and they take it and they get it, and then they give the money, and then you got to pay them back for money that you never was actually yours to begin with, because we are separate things. So like when you go into court, uh, that's why they use like all caps names and stuff like that. You are a corporation, you know, and what they do is they're suing the corporation. But when you don't know that, when you come in and you say, well, yeah, I am so and so, you're admitting to being in that corporation, not the human, you know, because these corporations don't have the law to go after a human. They can't. The people are above that law. You can't go after them unless they did something heinous or whatever, you know. But it's little things like that that they don't talk about it. And if everybody knew all these the foundation, and that you as the people have the ultimate power, they would have nothing to stand on. But
Yeah.
they don't want you to know that stuff because
Yeah. Yeah.
the corporation would lose all its money.
Yep. And sadly enough, there's a lot that people don't know. And I think family court's one of them until they get thrown into it and stuff happens and they are forced to have it slapped in their face and be like, what is going on here?
Yeah, you find out the reality of
Yeah.
what's happening. And I would love to bring this to big name people too, like podcasts like Jordan Peterson's. A lot of people follow him. Joe Rogan. If people like that were to start talking out about this in bigger quantities, they would have to do something eventually, because it would get
Yeah.
so loud. Like, oh God, you know, they would have to rectify the situation before the people started revolting.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and I think there's got to be a way too to empower people to speak, because so many don't want to because they're afraid. Oh, I'm still in
Exactly.
litigation. I don't want this to hurt me, And
Yep.
I did. I was worried about it too. And I even had it used against me. Like oh God, I forgot about this. So her attorney um, brought up that I had made a post on Facebook in a group that was for the local city here. It's like living in blah blah blah, and I made a post trying to find people that would like to speak out, like we are, about
Yes.
court corruption, child support, all this stuff. And uh, so of course she saw it, or somebody saw it or whatever. So in one of the court dates that I had, he brought that up, and I had to shut him down real quick. It was fun. He's like, so you've made a post about trying to find people to support the court corruption, and stuff like that. I'm like, yeah, I like to interview people. So what?
You said that.
Yes. I was like,
That's
I like
funny.
interviewing people. You so? And he was just like quiet, and the judge didn't say a damn thing, and he's just like, he had to move on. He had nothing fucking left to like. I
Yeah.
gave, you know,
Yeah. We're
I'm not gonna
doing
play
right.
that game, boy. Like, because if he were to try to say anything next, I would have slapped it on him. I'm like, uh, wait a minute, I'm confused because like you can't ask, you can't give questions, like because if they're asking you, if they're cross-examining you, you can only answer. You're not supposed to question, but the one little way you can get around it is if you're confused about what they're asking. So I was just waiting. I wanted so bad for him to start saying something more about it. And I would have been like, so I'm confused. Are you asking me to explain to you what the First Amendment is?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like, you're an
exactly.
attorney. Do I need to explain to you? Is that what you're asking me? That, because I'm going to make you look stupid for
Yeah.
fucking with me. And there's been multiple times that high priced attorney that she's got, and he asks these stupid questions. I make him look like a goddamn fool. I'm like, I could do better pro se than this guy's doing. And he used to be a district attorney and turned himself into a family law attorney. And I overheard him talking to GAL, who had asked him how he liked doing family law now. And he's, oh, I love it. It's so much easier, and he gets all this extra money. Da da da. Oh yeah, you're making all this money screwing people over, and you hardly have to do any work. You know,
Yeah.
um, and I it was like earlier this year. I had found when I was just trying to delve into stuff, whatever I could. I found that this guy, her attorney, is a child abuser. So he, well, his wife and him were having issues. He started being, spousal abuse, and she started recording stuff and started, bringing the cops in. But he had the cops in his back pocket because that's his area. Everybody knows this guy, you know, and he filed false allegations for a restraining order and got her three girls taken from her. And she hasn't. I don't know if she's seen him since, but the last time I heard her earlier this year, she hadn't seen him since 2020, something like that.
Oh,
You know,
that
all all
poor woman. She
all for lies and
she had all
allegations.
the odds stacked against her.
Yeah, because he's a family law attorney, so he's got the
Exactly.
judges in his
That
back pocket. He's
so
got any of the attorneys that come to
uh,
help him, and any of the cops. They're all in his back
uh,
pocket.
it's
So, and it's
sad.
like literally, like she posts video on TikTok and stuff on her channel of you know incidents where he was being abusive and like where he pushed her down the fucking stairs and stuff like that. And I'm like, yeah, and then but like when you like it made me sick because like I walked in the court like seeing this, I saw this, like I've watched it, okay, I know
Yeah,
who you are, you're a piece of shit kind of a person. And I go into
yeah,
court and the judges and everybody's like, "Oh, hi." And this guy's name's Childress too. And they're, "Oh, hi, Mr. Childress. Oh, hi." Like, your best buddies. Like your dude is on line as an abuser. He's an abuser, and he took his kids from a mother for lies. Like it's just proof. Like you can't deny it. The mother put it out
it's
there for
sad.
everybody to see, and you're still buddy with him. He's even got allegations where she's been like, because she was married to the man. She knows that he's got like connections with some cartel, and it was helping them move drugs. You know, I don't know that for a
Oh,
fact,
oh,
but she's putting that stuff online.
seen it. Yeah,
So, he can't come back at me and say I defamed him. I'm like, bro, go talk to your ex-wife. She's the one who put it online. I'm just watching what's
yeah,
online, you know.
yeah.
But there it is, and he's got an office right across the street from the courthouse, and
Of course.
like when I see, people often there's basically like two attorneys that get named a lot for family court in this area. He's one of them, and another one is this woman who's also a child abuser and narcissist. Um, Made up allegations against her ex-husband to get her kids away from him and all that stuff. And these people are just allowed to keep going, and there's no accountability. I think that's another thing too. Is like uh, somehow we should set up like a civilian run. Um, uh, I hate to use the word committee, but um,
Movement.
no, not a movement. Like it's an oversight committee essentially that,
Okay.
but it's civilian run. So you can't. So it's the civilians that come in and keep an eye on making sure these judges aren't
Oh yeah, yeah,
breaking the law. These clerks of court aren't breaking the law.
yeah.
Because the clerks of court are constantly breaking the law too.
Oh
Um,
yeah.
and because you can't have a judiciary committee made up of their peers because they're not going to do anything. They're going to
That's
just let
true.
them off because they want to be let off of the same crimes.
Yeah,
you know so you need a civilian run one that's not beholden to them in any way, shape, or form. And
yeah.
then those people, those civilians that are put into that position also, like, if you have ties to any of these people, these judges or whatever, if you found in any way, shape, or form to be buddy buddies with them, that's an even bigger crime because you're supposed to be the ones to protect. So if you're found colluding, that's a huge or bigger sentence, like, decades in prison or something like that. you know and then you'll see it stop happening. Take away their
Hmm.
funding, you know,
Yeah,
from the Title 4D. Take away that and get so stop wasting taxpayer dollars, and hold them accountable. Because if they didn't have the money to protect themselves, they're
hmm,
not gonna. Then they won't be able. And if they can be prosecuted for these true crimes that they're actually committing, they guarantee you stop that quick,
oh yeah.
very
Oh
quickly.
yeah.
You might still have a few that'll try to get away with stuff, but that's
Yep.
the incentive's gone. Why would they?
Hmm.
And that's what makes me sad for
Um,
the federal government too. Hoping that Trump and whoever else sees all that and it's like, okay, we can save billions of dollars and make the people happy.
yeah. Let's see. Let's see what happens in 2025.
What is so like presumptive, uh 50-50 is what a lot of places say. Automatically, if somebody gets separated, it's just a presumptive 50-50, unless you can prove true abuse. Not
And
this, I'm gonna walk in and make up lies and have no evidence.
the only place so far that's doing that is Switzerland, from what I heard.
Yeah,
Nowhere else, and they seem to be doing it just fine.
I think Brazil also has
Is doing
laws
it too.
against parental alienation. Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like
It's
catching on. But then you have people, the ones who are against that. Of course, they're the narcissists that don't want it out there. They're like,
oh yeah.
they try to say that the actual abusive parent accuses the non-abusive parent of this of parental alienation, trying to get control. I'm like, maybe that's happening, but I guarantee you it's probably a freaking tiny
Yes.
percentage of people trying to do that, because it's rare that the non-abuser actually gets custody, like you were saying earlier. So
Yeah.
um I'm in a bunch of groups that, I mean, because I just tried to like join all sorts of different ones. And some are, a lot of people in there just talking, um complaining, you know
Yeah.
well, my alienator, he's doing this or she's doing that, and I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, I haven't even been in these things that long, and I'm like, okay, I'm inundated. Like, I've seen it all. Like, okay, they're all doing the same bullshit. They're all
Yes.
you following the same kind of crappy ass. It's almost like sad or ridiculous because you could see, you could like, oh yeah, 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 I see that,
The
yep, yep,
pattern.
yeah, they look like
Yeah.
you're on the typical pattern of somebody who's doing that.
Yep.
you
Yep.
know,
Yep. Yep. There's like moments even where they'll talk and it'll trigger like a memory for me. And I'm like, oh yeah, that did happen. It's like
yeah,
it's we're all facing the same experiences and scenarios, and it's just like a repeat of the same story, just slightly different. Yep.
and then I mentioned to you that uh woman. She's like in her early 30s, I think. Um, her name's Maddie. She has a channel called the
Oh yeah.
Anti-Alienation Project, and I've enjoyed watching her stuff. She, her thing is, they want to use the term parental alienation, so that they want to kind of stick to that idea, um, but she's focused more on the people that are adults now that were children going through that. Um, which is good because you get to hear that side as well. And
Yeah.
and she doesn't, while her situation specifically was her mother alienating her, abusing her and alienating her from her dad, she understands that doesn't matter what gender, a narcissist comes in both genders, um, and it harms equally all children.
Oh yeah.
So it doesn't matter where it's coming from, and then and bringing a voice to the people that went through it themselves, and now are adults, and some had, like herself, were able to reconnect with their parent, and make
Mhm.
amends, and now realizing that the other one's gone the other way with that abusive parent, or some that what they didn't realize it until after that parent died, and now they will never have the chance of reconciling. They will live with that for the rest of their life. You know, and I in my case, I know my kids. Like one day that I feel they'll probably wake up to it. I have a little more hope for my daughter because I don't. I think my she targeted my son harder, you know, because he was older. Um, so I fear that it would be harder for him to come to the realizations of what's been done. But then I know at some point they're gonna have to go through it, and the healing that's gonna have to take place because of the years of unpacking everything that happened.
Yeah, all the damage that's already been done.
Yeah, and so that's why I feel, I guess, kind of hopeful, uh, more so for someone like yourself, because your son's younger, so you can head that crap off ahead of time. If you can get through this
Yeah.
stuff and he's with you, because one of the things that, like even Dr. Childress says, in order to help these children get out of that brainwashing, essentially, is to remove them from the abuser and put them with
Yeah.
the other parent. And
Yeah.
he sees it over and over and over again that these kids make a drastic, comeback when they remove them completely from that abusing parent. And that's why
Mhm.
even when I went to court, I was trying to get full custody because I was like, she's abusing them, and the only way to
Yeah.
stop this is, and they're like, no, sir, we can't do that. And I'm like, so you're worthless.
Oh boy.
And that's why I decided, like, uh, I'm supposed to have visitation with my daughter right now. Um, every other Sunday, I'm supposed to see her for a little bit, but she's so brainwashed into it that the last thing she says, I'm done with these visits because the judge ordered that I'm supposed to go pick her up from her house, to go do our visit, and drop her back off. And mommy and boyfriend don't like that because they don't want to admit that they've moved out of the home that was provided for them and now have moving and live with him full time. Uh, so then you're not wanted here. Nobody wants you around. These are things that my daughter said to me last. I'm just done with these visits. Nothing bad, nothing bad. It's not like I'm abusive in any way, shape, or form. You know, so I could go back and file a show cause, like here's more interference, but what's the point? Because I know this
Yeah.
this judge isn't going to do shit. It's just going to be another thing, or at the very least, it's like because she's, you know, what she'll be 15 in May, so uh, she's at that age where she doesn't want to see you, so they'll go by what the kid says, even though that's not what's in the best interest of the child, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm like, why keep fighting? It's dragging me down. Even over the Christmas break, I got sick as a friggin' dog, and I think it was because the stress coming up to the holidays. I'm not gonna see them and all this stuff, and
Yeah.
I'm just done with that. I'm just gonna
Yeah.
kill me. It- you know,
Yeah. Yeah.
my body's gonna deteriorate on me if I keep letting this go down this path.
I think as difficult as it all is, everybody's got to pick their path of how to cope with this,
Yeah,
whether it can continuously fight or to literally just give up. You got to keep your mental state
yeah,
intact to
yeah,
keep going. And it's sad,
absolutely.
but I get it.
And that's, it's like I tell myself I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up on them. I'm I'm changing the venue of the fight. Is what I'm doing. Like I can't
Yeah.
go into that courthouse and keep fighting under their turf, under their rules,
Yeah.
because they're just going to keep steamrolling over me. So,
Yeah.
like I woke up on that one day and I'm like, yo, I think I was reading is a book called the Five Rings. I think is what it's called by a old samurai master Miyamoto Musashi. I think it's but he wrote a book. It ain't even that big, but it's like really good wisdom stuff. And one of the things is like you know, you don't fight on their terms, you fight on your terms. You know, so I'm like, yeah, I'm changing the venue. This is where I'm gonna fight because I can speak
Yeah.
up and speak
Yeah.
loudly, you know. And one of the things that was that they gave me a hard time about, both my kids and my ex would send me emails talking shit about me getting on social media and saying stuff. Uh, they're like, you know, like she would say, you know, the kids, you know, don't like this or whatever, and they're, you know, what are they gonna, you know, they're worried about what their friends are gonna think if they, you know, because you got the same last name as them, so it's easy for them to find your Facebook and they can see all the stuff you're posting on Facebook and you know how that's gonna make them look. I'm just speaking out. You know, if you don't like it, fucking stop. You know, you want me to
Yeah.
stop? Change, and I won't do
Yeah.
this anymore. You know, the only reason I'm having to is because you forced me into this situation. And what,
Well, in
you
a
didn't
lot
think
of
I
ways,
wasn't gonna fight?
yeah, in a lot of ways, good they find your Facebook. Good
Right.
they find out that you never stopped thinking and talking about them.
Yeah.
These are good things. I'm sorry
Exactly.
you don't like it.
Yeah.
You know?
That's again the will to act. Why I'm doing that, you know, is because I do have that ability to keep pushing forward. You know, like one day I was it was a Fourth of July, and it's kind of like even solidified that aspect of my personality, of the kind of the person that can act without having to sit there and calculate it and think, oh, and worry and all this shit. Like you just do. Um, my ex, this is before we actually got divorced, but we were still in the separation phase, but like we
Mhm.
were trying to get along, if you will. And
Mhm.
it was 4th of July, doing fireworks. It was just like this was in 2020, and I was like, I want this to be a really good one because all this crap going on. I want to have a good holiday. I spent a bunch of money on them goddamn fireworks, and you know those big ones you can buy that they're like the grand finales. You know,
Yeah.
I even splurged and said I'm gonna get one of these, um, and set them all off. Everything was done. We had a fire pit going, and she was taking the you know the cart because it's all cardboard left over, and she was just throwing it in the fire and letting it burn up. Well, the last one she threw in there was that grand finale. Come to find out, I realized why I was so disappointed in the damn thing because like I was like, this is it. Like this is crappy. Like she threw it in the fire. I came outside from putting the kids to bed, and I sit down. Her sister, half sister's there, right? And I was looking at it. I was like, oh, you threw that in there. I didn't think much of it, you know. And then it was just boom. The thing exploded and just kept raining fire, you know, white fire, just a constant, like for like a good 30 seconds or something like that. Um, and I mean, we're sitting pretty darn close to the damn fire pit, you know. So it's like my instant reaction is like I bolted up and around out of that chair and was like 30 feet away instantly. You know, I was gone. And then, but I spun around to see what was going on. And you know, I see my sister in law, she had got out of the way, but my ex had fallen over her chair and was like trying to get away from the fire. And like, I bolted towards her, and you know, ground was kind of wet, and I mean, this was like some shit out of a movie. I'm telling you, like I hit like the ground sliding, like I was sliding into home base, you know, and
Wow.
um, we had one of those little sandboxes, you know, the turtle sandboxes, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Yeah.
The cover was right nearby, and I grabbed it as I'm like sliding, and then like I get up to her, and I wrap it around her, and I pull her in, and I go like this, to hold it. So,
like a
cause
shield.
yeah, yeah, for real. Like, and I mean, I could feel fire hitting me, like,
Mhm.
but I was the adrenaline and everything. I was like, I didn't care,
Yeah.
and then it stopped. Like, you know,
Huh.
and she was burnt in different places. She got burnt, um, but nothing on me, But I was like,
Good.
I
You
thought
went to
about
bed.
that. I thought about that moment so many times leading up to me getting this tattoo a few months later, and I was like, you know, I'm that kind of person, obviously, that won't hesitate to run into a fire to save somebody. And I was like, see, that's kind of that says something about my character. The fact that this woman's trying to abuse me. I knew at that point what was going on. That's why we were getting separated. I was like, but even in
But you
that, I still did the right thing to protect
still did the right thing.
another.
Yeah.
And yet, here I am,
You are.
having to start my life all over again. Like after that incident, um, so there was an incident in January of 2020, right? Um, she was constantly on me, like that whole I want to talk about this or want to talk about that, and it was always inundating with feelings, and this is what I, it doesn't matter what you think, and you're a piece of shit, and all this other stuff, and and then it was. I was trying to avoid all that stuff, and she was going out of her way to instigate, trying to get me to talk to her. Um, even doing something like ridiculous, like we were staying in separate rooms in the basement, and she comes downstairs early Sunday morning, and like out of the blue, decides I'm gonna vacuum the basement. Never does that, never, and decides to do it in her underwear. you know so it's like trying to
Mhm.
play that little manipulative game, standing in my doorway, bending over, vacuuming and stuff, and then you know uh she ends up sucking up a fucking sweater, and she's like, oh, my back hurts, can you come get this out? And I'm like, I know what this is, I'm like, whatever. So I get up and I run over there real quick, I pull it out, and I'm like, okay, and I go back, and it's immediate. It's like, do you want to talk? No, I don't want to talk. you know like every time we talk, it's an argument. It's something bad. I was like, I don't want this anymore. And it was like blocking me from going back to my room. And I'm like, see, look what you're doing. You're blocking me here. You're acting crazy and all this stuff. You won't even let me go past. I don't know what you're talking about. You know, and then finally lets me go past. I go into the room. I have my cell phone in my hand, right, and I drop it on the pillow, and I turn around, and she's like right up on me and screaming at me, you know, if you don't love us, then get the fuck out of my house. You don't deserve anything. You didn't earn any of this. I'm like, literally, this house is in my name only. I'm the one that pays the mortgage. All that, I'm the one who pays all the bills. Yet, if you don't love us, meaning us and the kids, always roping the kids into it,
Yeah.
instead of, no, this is between you and me, you know
Mhm.
um and when she said that, like, you didn't earn any of this and all this stuff, get the fuck out of my house, I'm angry, so I said some harsh things, and I was like, this is my house, so, like, if you want something, you need to go. So you need to go off your fat lazy ass and go earn it for yourself. I mean, I was angry, and
Yeah. Yeah.
from all this stuff, and she spun around, fist closed, and started swinging, and hit me in the face. You know, um, and the adrenaline's pumping, so like I feel them landing, but I'm like, it's not really phasing me,
Yeah.
but I'm not stupid, and so I go like this, like a boxer, man. I'm like protecting my face, and I'm going down, and the swings are still coming, and then when I get down low, like this, I had longer hair back then, and I had it in a ponytail, and she legit grabbed me by the ponytail, yanking my head back to keep hitting me. um,
Mm.
and I get up. I mean, I egged it on a little bit after. Once I started getting hit, like, okay, that's it, like, and I told her, I was like, you hit like a bitch. I was like, keep
Um,
doing it. Go ahead. You know, I was like, it's not hurting. And then, but I was able to get up and out of the way. And I was like, you're fucking crazy. I'm calling the police. And I went to grab my phone. And, uh, and so I have my back to her and she comes around me and is trying to take the phone from me. Right. So we're struggling. I'm like, get off of me. You know, I'm like, she's behind me. And I'm like, get off of me, you know? And we end up falling back onto the bed, struggling over my phone. And my son hears the commotion. He comes down the stairs and he sees me getting off of her, like, but she's to my back, and I'm still getting, like, who's the aggressor? The one getting away or the one behind controlling? You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
But he
yeah,
sees it as I did it because he's been twisted to thinking that
yeah.
I was the one, but yet I legitly have the police report from the cop that came out there from that incident because they arrested her later
Oh
because
wow.
he saw my face was all red and my neck and was bruising, you know? And so he wrote up his report. I wrote up mine. And he's like, because she left. Like, as soon as I was able to get away from her, I was on the phone with 911. And before I had the chance to even say what the address was, she got herself dressed, her purse, grabbed the kids and some of their stuff, and had them in the car in less than 60 seconds. It was amazing, you know, and was gone. And I was like, cops like, do you know where she's at? I was like, she just assaulted me. For all I know, she's just trying to run from, leave the state. I don't know, because she's scared. Um, and come to find out, she went to the magistrate's office trying to say that I was being aggressive. But by that time, the cop had already is there, sees me covered in bruises and redding and swelling. My face was swelling up, and so he went over there and arrested her. But
Oh wow.
she got that narcissistic trauma, you know. She got arrested for it. So what? She turned around as soon as they, you know, took her fingerprints and did all her stuff. She went right back into the magistrate's office. So it's like a little over an hour later, because like I've got all the I FOIA requested all the 911 stuff and everything. And so I had it. And literally, I saw the time points and everything. Like over an hour later, comes up. She writes up something. And it's like, it's all squiggly and stuff. Like she's been traumatized, you know? And it never said I did anything to her. Like I didn't touch her. I never physically touched her. She never said that. She said I was being aggressive and that I
Uh,
was yelling and stuff like that. And the magistrate put a warrant out for me for that.
really?
Yes. So I was like, and she got let go, and then I was like, she came to pick up uh my daughter. I had them because the police gave me the kids at that point, and she came to pick them up, and she was fucking livid, like psychotic, and she got my daughter, and she came up to my vehicle on my window, and she's smacking on it. Roll down the window, roll down the window. I was like, I had that sucker cracked. She's like, roll down, roll down. I was like, no, that's enough. She's like, just so you know, the cops are looking for you. There's a warrant out for your arrest. I was like, bullshit. You're the one that assaulted me. They arrested your ass. I was like, well, just in case. I went down there myself and talked to the magistrate, and it's this dumb fucking woman, man. Like, just I could tell with her attitude, she's just like one of those people that's in a position of power that's kind of petty and, just a biatch, you know. And I was like, why? I was like, I was told that there's this because the sheriff's office didn't even have it yet, and I was like, someone told me supposedly there's a warrant and this and that, and she's like, looked up the name. She's like, well, yes, sir, there is. I'm like, really? Why? I was like, she was arrested for assaulting me because the police found that. Well, based off of her testimony, I'm like, her testimony just doesn't say like because I was able to get all that because they have to give it to you. You have to have a copy of that before you even go in so you know what this protective order is for. And I'm like, you gave her one when the police or came and arrested her for assaulting me because of what they found. Like, you're dumb. Like that bitch needs to be
Yeah, yeah,
fired.
yeah.
Like, you suck at your job. Now that was the
Jeez.
fifth incident of being assaulted. That was in
So,
January 2020.
so what happened? Did you go? Were
We
you
did,
arrested?
but because she had one on me, it was basically
Mhm.
a tit for tat bullshit. So it was like, well, if you drop
Uh,
yours against me, I'll drop yours, kind of
oh
thing.
my gosh.
Yeah. So
Wow.
and she had another high price attorney in town that was helping out. Um, and I'm like,
Wow.
I can't fight this shit because I'm the one paying the bills. I have no money. They're living off of me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. Wow.
So it's
What a
it's
mess.
it's been a lot, and
Yeah.
you can,
Yeah.
psychological, emotional, mental abuse is how it started off. You know,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and degradation and things like that, making you feel worthless, like you're not as,
Yeah.
that you can't do as well.
Exactly.
You're not, all this stuff, and
Yep.
then over time, starting to realize what's going on and standing up for yourself. That's the
Yep.
problem. Remember we were talking about bullies on the playground? It's not the bully that gets in trouble, it's the one that stands up for himself that gets in
Yep.
trouble. And so,
Yep.
when you start standing up for yourself against a narcissist, that's when it gets really, really bad.
Yeah.
They start coming after you even more. Um,
Yep.
and that's when the abuse started to escalate. And so, about the last year and a half before that last incident, it happened total of 5 times, including that last incident where she physically assaulted me. you know, one time she assaulted me. We were in a car, and she basically karate chopped my damn neck. She was driving, and we were arguing, and I was just saying my piece, and I happened to look out the my window away from her, and I see in my peripheral something move, and next thing she hits me with the back of her hand in my throat. I was like, "What the fuck?" And I just like kind
Yes.
of hit her hand away, you know, and then that's when it's like she starts going, "Oh, I'm scared." Like you just assaulted somebody else, and they knocked you away, and now you're acting victim. She pulls over
Yeah.
a gas station, telling me to get out. I'm gonna call the cops or whatever. And has my son, intentionally brought my son to this experience too,
Oh no.
and was acting out, and ended up dropping me off on the middle of the fucking highway. I had just come back
Wow.
from a work thing, training that was out of town, and so I had my suitcases. I took that shit out of the trunk even before I got all my stuff out. She started driving away. Like that door was still open, and I had to call my stepson, her oldest child. I was like, "You're this bitch just left me, just assaulted me, and then threatened me, and then left me on the side of the highway here, man." So him and a coworker of ours, came, like they went, picked up my vehicle from the house and came and got me. you know?
Wow.
Yet I'm the bad parent. I'm the bad
Yeah.
parent, you know?
Yeah.
Because I pay all the bills and I don't assault. Like, all these times that she assaulted me, I know her intention was she was trying to get me to hit back. I know that's
Yeah.
what she was trying to do because immediately it would have been like, oh, look what he did to me. And I'm like, I'm not playing that game. You know, I'm a grown man. I'm a big guy. I know, like, if I were to one hit from me, would have been lights out, and then I would have been in jail, you know.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
not I'm not playing that game. Like, fine, you want to be a narcissist, you want to do this. That's even what led into the decision. Is like, I know if I leave, I'm probably gonna lose my kids because she's gonna manipulate them and alienate them against me. I knew it was gonna happen, but it's either stay here and continue getting abused and possibly get thrown in jail because she's trying to do this, or save yourself. And that the morning after that assault, or like later on that, no, it was like we had this kind of thing. Like, it was so fucking stupid that the judge wouldn't give either of us possession of the home. So both of us are in there, but both of us have protective orders against each other.
Oh, that is weird.
Retarded. Even the cops are like, this doesn't make any sense. We don't understand when
Yeah.
this happens. Like, what the hell are we supposed to do?
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, this makes no freaking sense. So like she agreed to the cops that she would not come downstairs and bother
Oh
me or
my
talk to me,
god.
that she would live upstairs. And
Oh,
then vice
I
versa. I had to
love
say, well, I wouldn't go up there, and you know,
that.
and
So
stupid, right? She wouldn't. She
yeah,
didn't abide by that at all. Like, I mean,
it's only a matter of time
compulsive
before
lying.
that doesn't work out.
Oh yeah, she kept coming downstairs, kept bothering me. Kept breaking into the room. I had to put locks, padlocks on the doors because she kept breaking in the room, stealing shit, doing stuff. Um, and so I was supposed to have the downstairs space, which included like what was used as the master bedroom. So I was like, I'm gonna move my shit in there. Well, she locked that up and put some of her stuff in there and the kids. A tiny, tiny amount of stuff. So I got in there, moved it all out, and put my stuff in there. I come home. She destroyed the fucking door. I mean, like I saw like a few pieces left. Like she already had thrown it out and taken it to the dump, and there was just a few pieces left. You know, and got in there, called the cops and all this stuff, and I'm like, I mean, this has been multiple times over petty stuff, and like in a month's time, and so the cops come out that night, and they're like, the the one guy he gets us, he's like, I want you both out here so I don't have to say this twice. He's like, this is a bunch of petty stuff. We can't get involved because of XYZ. It's a civil matter. Da da da.
Yeah,
He's like, if you keep calling us, we're just gonna arrest both of you and have CPS pick up your kids.
yeah,
Said that to both of us that night, and then there was still like protective order stuff. So the next morning, the cop was showing up with the protective order, who had been one of the ones that had previously come out there, and he's like, I'm talking to him, and he says the same thing. He's like, I'm gonna tell you, man. They're everybody's there fed up at it, so they're just gonna arrest you if this, y'all, if this keeps happening. And I was like, bro, you see what's happening? You see, she's the one creating all this petty stuff, and calling you all, not me. And he's like, I know. I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? He's like, honestly, I've seen these situations before, and I think your best thing to do is to get everything you care about in this house and run for your life, because that she's trying to either kill you or have you arrested and put in jail for a long time. And I was like, I mean, I took that shit to heart. And in the next 2 hours, I had a minivan that I was using for work. I packed that sucker to the gills, from the back of the front seats all the way to the very fucking back, with every things that were mine from that I'd had from before our marriage, and everything that I cared about that I didn't want to be destroyed and lost. Uh,
yeah,
and I grabbed my husky, my dog, and I left. Um, and I lived out of that van with my dog for a month, and that was between February and March, the dead of winter here. Uh, I slept in a parking lot, um, that was like for a rec, like had baseball and soccer fields. And the reason I slept there because it was dark and there was a porta john right there. So if I had I needed to use the bathroom, there we go.
yeah,
I was literally homeless for a freaking month just to stay away from the danger, you know.
yeah, yeah,
And then COVID hit, and he made all these excuses. Oh, with everything that's going on in the world, can't we just make things, get along? So I bought into that bullshit, and it just kept getting worse. And then she filed child support on me in September of that year. I didn't know any better. I didn't know how it all works, so I got roped into that shit. you
yeah,
know? And now they considered me arrears because like I didn't know how it worked. I was like, I was giving her the money, just not through the child support,
yeah,
system. So they're
yeah,
seeing as me as I'm all this arrears, and they didn't care. Like I told them, I was like, I was paying her. They don't care. You need to pay us. So they have me in arrears now, and you don't know that. So this is what fucks me up about it too is the child support. It's supposed to be this volunteer program, right? And but they come up with this arbitrary number and say you owe us this amount of money, and if you
mm-hmm.
don't pay, we're gonna put you in jail. We're gonna take your license and or your passport, um, and then so that creates one problem. That's fraud. You're being coerced into signing into a program that
Mm-hmm.
is against your will. and then they are committing securities and exchange fraud. So the SEC, that monitors the stock market and all that other stuff, um,
Mhm.
they're committing fraud on that level because they're creating a fake debt. This debt, they're saying you owe us this amount of money. That's fake. There's nothing you weren't giving anything in return for that money. So it's like, normally when there's an exchange, they give you something, you give them money.
Yeah, yeah,
You stop paying the money, they take said thing back. You know, in this case, was it's considered, like if I were to go to you and I'm like, I write down this piece of paper, Kamala, you owe me $20,000 because I say so, and
yeah,
this is a debt. That's fraud. I can't do that, you know,
yeah,
but they can, and they can say you owe us this money, this fake debt, and then not only will they take away if your rights if you stop paying them this fake debt, they actually add interest on any arrearage. So now you're
yeah,
adding interest onto a fake debt. So now
yeah,
you're committing fraud on three different levels at a minimum, you know, and they can get away with that. Contempt of court. You
yep.
didn't pay, you know.
Sucks. It totally sucks. Yep.
This is the passion I go through now. I think about it
Yeah.
every morning, and I want to speak out and I want to bring these people down.
Oh yeah.
Because I I believe in America. I believe that we are a great country. Uh, and the people of we're supposed to be the free people. We're not. We're all slaves now. All of us.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what gender or color your skin. You are a
Yep.
slave under their system now.
Yes.
And that's another reason. Like I don't want to discourage people from like the idea of marriage, but if you want to get married, you don't need a goddamn license from the
Yeah.
state, from the government. Keep them out of your marriage. They don't
Yeah.
have any
Yeah.
business being there. You know,
Yeah.
uh, and that alone is kind of stupid. A marriage license is just as retarded as a driver's license because it's technically against the Constitution. The Constitution says you cannot, a state or anybody in any institution cannot license a fundamental right. And these are rights that we have. Being able
Mm.
to travel the country freely is a fundamental right. Yet the licenses is supposed to be for people conducting commerce. But it all wraps together, whether it's child support,
Yeah.
it's all under the same guise. So if we go at it
Mhm.
all, and have it changed,
You could make a lot of changes all in one swoop.
yeah, yeah, exactly, and then affect a lot of Americans because I mean I love America, I love this country and what it was founded on. We just have to fight for it. Freedom's not always free. you know, and that's
Yeah.
why we have the Second Amendment because it's
Yeah.
not always free, and you need that one in order to be able to protect all the others.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which that's a whole nother subject.
Oh yeah. Definitely.
Man, this has been a lot of fun though. We covered a
Yeah.
lot.
Thanks. I'm
Uh,
starting to get hungry.
but
might
yeah,
have to get might have to get going.
yeah, that's about
Get some
one
food.
o'clock for you out there, isn't it?
Yeah. Almost 2 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh, okay, you're at three. Yeah, yeah, it's almost five here, but
Oh, dinner time.
something like that. But this is great, and I'm gonna have this up, pretty soon. Yeah, and
Okay.
I'm gonna
Cool.
share it to the groups and stuff because I'm trying to get more attention so we can do a lot more.
Sounds good. And yeah, if you want to do it again, let me know.
Yeah,
It'd be cool.
I know you got some positive things in your future looking up for you right now that we talked about earlier. So
Yeah. I hope.
when it comes to fruition and you're able to talk about it openly, we got to do it again because
Oh,
that is
definitely.
cool. Like
I hope.
what you told
Yeah.
me
I
is
can't
cool.
wait to talk about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I'm excited for you, and I can't wait till we can come back together and talk about the results of how that went down.
Oh, that'd be great. Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I'd gladly talk about it.